I would like to call the Committee on Budget back to order at 2:21 p.m. Members, we have left the Department of Transportation Services, Department of Enterprise Services, Department of Customer Services, as well as Department of Environmental Services. Wow, I just realized that they all have services at the end of their names there. Okay, with that, I would like to first call up the Department of Transportation Services. And their departmental communication is 166, which I have up already. And with us from the administration, we have Director Roger Morton. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Wire, members of the committee. My name is Roger Morton, and I'm the Director of Transportation Services for the city. Before we begin, I just wanted to make a shout out to my very handsome and beautiful staff members who got dressed up today in honor of the council to just show our respect to the council for this important event today. We're here to talk about our budget, and we're going to go through our presentation first, and then I'll be available for questions. On our first slide here, we just show our combined budget at $437,958,971. I believe in terms of operating budget, that's probably the largest operating budget of all the departments. Our budget is obviously our partners at the bus and handy van and our partners running rail account for the bulk of the budget, whereas the department's civil service employees and the operations we do in TE and in traffic signals are a much smaller part of the budget. But you can see the breakdown there that the great bulk of $325,905,000 for bus, $89,163,000 for Skyline. Next slide, please. Just to show a little bit about how the department is organized, we have an administrative section. And within our administrative section, in addition to the traditional activities such as budget and human resources, we've also begun to put in positions in there that have overriding responsibility for multimodalism. Those will be things like our holo card support folks and people like that. And then our divisions that we started a new division last year in the Transportation Rail Division, but we have Transportation Technology, which is basically, it is traffic signals and permitting. We have TE, Traffic Engineering. We have Transportation Performance and Development. Formerly, at one point, it was Transportation Planning. We have our new Rail Division, and we have our Transportation Mobility Division, which is responsible for oversight of the bus and the handy van. In terms of the budget issues that we have several. In comparison to the overall size of the budget, there's not really a lot of budget issues that are left. In transportation engineering, we're still trying to make sure that we have enough money for incentives when we hire engineers, that they're not provided in the line item budget for positions. Same thing for transportation, for our object code 1123, coming out of the different funds, the highway fund, the bike fund. Same thing in transportation technology. In transportation technology, under current expenses, we had a budget issue since we took over security services at our 845 Middle Street location, and previously that was a service that had been budgeted by DFM, but it was switched over to us this year. It didn't get in the budget. In our transportation mobility, again, we're looking at incentives for our hard-to-reach engineers. In terms of our vacancy count right now, the February vacancy report indicated 57 vacancies. I'm happy to report that since then, 7 have been filled. That would leave 50 to go. We are making all attempts possible to try to recruit all of these positions, or most of these positions, by the end of this year. And we'll continue those efforts. On our next slide, we're looking at overtime in the department. Again, the overtime in the department is most significant in the transportation technology, where we also do permitting And most of the overtime there's two types of overtime that we really incur in transportation technology. One is the overtime of our staff who man the many, many events that we operate every year in the city. The other one is our crew of after-hours skilled traffic signal technicians who have to get called out on an emergency basis whenever our traffic signals go down. The next slide is in terms of our revenues. I'll make the point of saying that we are projecting more revenues as our ridership on our buses and handy vans begin to approximate coming back to somewhat of a more normal situation. And I'd also want to highlight some of the initiatives that we have going forward in this year, trying to raise even more revenue. We are operating a successful student transportation program. I think that one is going to bring in net about $4 million extra this year. We are hoping to increase some of our marketing of our visitors. We've had some representatives from the industry that we've dialogued with over how can we best serve them. In terms of our Medicaid funding, I've made presentations to the council before, and I am actively trying to develop a program where the federal government pays more of the cost of the handy van for Medicaid services that agencies pay. These are not services that individuals pay, but these are services that are funded directly by Medicaid, for which users receive the service for free. In our bus and in our selected increases, we've been successful this year in working with our partners at State DOT to flex $10 million extra of highway money that they have flexed over here to help us with our budget this year. And we are also, I will be trying to take a look at selected fares in the coming year and would probably come back with a recommendation. Next slide, please. I'm going to go into the capital budget now. In our capital budget, we have projects that DTS manages, and we have projects within DDC's budget. But first, I'll cover the projects, the major projects within our capital budget that DTS manages. The first one is our computerized traffic control system. This has been a long-term project to connect all of our intersections to our Joint Traffic Management Center. That would include both our traffic signals and traffic cams along the way. This year, we are emphasizing expanding that system toward the west side, from Kapolei on to Nanakuli, Waianae, all the way to Makaha. We're also embarking on a program in cooperation with the state of Hawaii to replace all of our intersection traffic signal controllers. These are replacing old units, some of them DOS, some of them go back to the DOS days. Basically, the old units are obsolete. We can't find parts for them. And with the state, we've decided that we're going to replace about 1,000 intersection control boxes over the next 4 or 5 years. This will be the first year of a program to start that. These programs are the ones that are all federally funded. We have our normal traffic improvement at various locations. We have a number of locations where we are proposing to make some traffic improvements. We have a bag full of traffic signals that we are planning to do. We're planning to do bikeway improvements, including embarking on the first year of a 2-year program to try to develop a good plan, again, in cooperation with the state of Hawaii Department of Transportation, to develop what we call a South Shore bike plan that would basically extend 32 miles from Nanakuli to UH Manoa. We have federal funding for that as well. It'll be starting on a planning side for that. Going on to the next page, we are continuing to make intermodal improvements. We made a good improvement out in Koalakai by the UH West Oahu. We have a nice multi-use path there that we finished. We're also making improvements in several places, including Halava Station. Our soon-to-come well, not soon enough, but eventually come our Chinatown station in Kekaliki Mall. We're ready to finish that project. We're doing some. We have plans to make some improvements at our our Pearl Highland station as well. As we do every year, we are programming local and federal funds to keep our bus fleet up to date, but with handy van and bus acquisitions. We're continuing to make incremental improvements on our street to make our streets more friendly at our bus stops for people with disabilities, making them ADA compliant. We have purchased 645 Middle Street. That's the old Y-HIP property. There was a cold storage building. It sort of sits in the middle of our transit campus over there. The city bought it a few years ago, and now we are programming improvements for that facility as well. Included in our, in the next page, included in our DTS projects, the DDC will be included in DDC's budget. First, we have the electrification of transportation improvements there. Basically, those are bus chargers in various parts of the city. Right now, we have one charging station at our Kalihi facility. DDC is getting ready to start work on our Alapai Transit Center facility. We have design money in for this year for our Pearl City facility. We'll also be working with a charging facility at our Pearl Ridge bus facility. We have a few more, but those are the ones that are included in this year's budget. We're making improvements to our some of our municipal parking structures. Those are ventilation, usually electrical changes that are being done by Electrical Maintenance Division at DVC. We're also getting ready to start a project on our Pearl Ridge bus transfer station. This is in the vicinity of Pearl Ridge Center. It is our Pearl Ridge station, and we have the rail station there now, and we will be developing a transit center there. Our goal is to have that center done by the time we get our transit system into town, or way before we get it into town. We're making improvements on Kalihi Stream, adjacent to the properties that we own in Kalihi, basically to make sure that our bank does not get washed away with increasingly heavy floods and rains. And and again, DDC will be working to strengthen and make that stream bed more resilient. In our rehab of streets, but portion of that budget in DDC has about $50 million in that budget, but of that $50 million, about $15 million of that is the beginning of a Kaka'ako Streets rehabilitation. These are the old alleged Chun Brothers streets that were recently in January. They were transferred to the city by the governor through an executive order, and we're starting to put money into the budget. The money we have in here, the $15 million, is 100% non-city money. It is federal and state money to help us with that project. Finally, we have our Alawai Bridge project. That's we were successful in obtaining a discretionary raise grant for that, and together with TAP discretionary funding allocated from FHWA, we have about $50 million of federal money in that project, and we're hoping to really start that project going this year. That concludes my formal presentation here, but I'm happy to answer questions and have all my staff here in the event that you get one that stumps me.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions for Director Morton? We have Committee Vice Chair Wire, followed by Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo, Director, for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify the 7 positions that were filled. Which ones were those, or where are they located? Were those like planner positions, or?
I'm going to look to my ASO for that answer. This is Mr. Chris Obin.
For the record, Chris Ovid, Administrative Services Officer with DTS. If you turn to your list of vacant positions.
Perfect.
Under the Transportation Engineering Activity, which is approximately the middle of the page, you can cross out TR 118 or Office Assistant 3. You can cross out Planner 3, TR 329. Going a little further down, we're going to go to the activity Transportation Performance Development Division. The last position, TR 239, Traffic Technician 3. You can cross that out, that's been filled. In Transportation Technology, it's my pleasure to report that we have filled TR 308, Electronics Technician, utilizing a new program from the Department of Human Resources on one-day hiring. You can cross that one out. Also, it's my pleasure to report in Transportation Technology, TR 337, Traffic Signal Inspector has also been filled. On our second page, continuing in the Transportation Technology Agency, you can cross out TR 513, Trades Apprentice 1. And to make the total 7 in Transportation Rail Agency, you can cross out Assistant Storekeeper, TR 566. That has also been filled. Thank you.
Perfect. That's great to hear. And then I was just going to ask a quick follow-up on that, because looking at the CIP budget, were there still potential analyses going on at the Pearl Highlands area regarding the station there and pedestrian access?
Yeah, we have done two things on that. I don't think we've actually started it yet, but we're at the point of seeking approval to start a design process so that we can, as part of our intermodal connection program, we're designing a pedestrian bridge that would cross Kamehameha at that point. We also, we have funding identified for design. For construction, we have submitted, within the last 2 weeks, we've submitted what's called a RAISE grant to U.S. Department of Transportation for $25 million, where we're asking for funding for that important facility.
Perfect. When you say the money for design, that's in this year's CIP, or that was from last year?
I believe it was from last year, because we have the money identified. We don't have a contractor with NTP yet, but we are working with BFS to get that going.
Okay. Well, appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Committee Vice Chair. Next, we have Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. First, I just wanted to express my gratitude day in and day out for the multitude of riser responses that you guys provide to us, as well as long-term projects. So a couple of things. Thank you for improvements at Kailua Municipal Parking Lot and the Pali Golf Course. Thank you for all the hard work you guys are doing on Kalapawai Roundabout projects. Your complete streets is top-notch. And I know that we hear a lot of complaints because things are not going as fast as we would like it, but nevertheless, I do believe that people do get the bigger picture. And I feel that your team just holistically is looking at that long-term objective of better streets for our communities. Thank you for the Lanikai Transportation Management Plan. I know that the town hall meeting, had a lot of expressive community attendees, and I anticipate that the mayor's town hall on the 28th is going to be very robust. And I look forward to addressing Makali'i Place, as well as Hihimanu Street speed bumps in Waimanalo. I don't have a problem with your budget because I think that you guys just do a good job in general of not only the revenues that you've described on page 7, but also in securing federal dollars. So I do want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. It's part of just my holistic approach to the city government. And I believe I've said it before that you guys do a better job than others. However, I would like a breakdown or an understanding of how much federal funding you estimate that you get for formula funding, and how much do you get for discretionary funding? I don't know if you have those numbers. Do you have that for the last fiscal year?
Well, in rough numbers, there's several programmatic programs that we get, and I think we get about $45 million in formula money, And out of that 45 million, I'd point out right off the top, we allocate 21 million to basically to operations. So that would leave us about 24, 25 million for capital programs. In terms of discretionary, we've been exceptionally lucky this year. I think that my goal is to try to get 100 million per year in federal discretionary money. We haven't got that much, but we're probably in the $75 million range. And that's what my goal going forward would be. As I say, we just submitted a $25 million request. We're getting ready to submit another $20 million request for electrification. So what holds us up, Council Member, is our 54 vacancies that we can bring in all the federal money, but unless we have the program managers and the project managers to really work those programs, I can't work my staff to death just on working.
Absolutely, but that's your job, and I have confidence that you're going to do that. My point is this, and in the future, you may want to have that breakdown because other departments actually look at the source of funding, and this is quite significant. I will repeat what he said so that all other departments can hear this. $45 million in formula funding and $75 to $100 million in discretionary funding. That is competitive funding.
Yes.
So I just remember when I first got elected, Mayor Blangiardi actually came from his office when I kept on talking about better federal grants capacity, and he said, "What numbers are you talking about?" And I was able to highlight some of the electric buses that you got, almost all of those buses from discretionary funding. So you guys are an example of what should be. Now, everyone's going to say, well, they have it easier because, transportation, right? But I just want to say, I hear what you're telling me with regard to the filling of positions to do your job, but you're in a nice situation. And I just, wish you guys all the best and to continue to do the good job that you guys are doing. I feel so bad because I feel that I complain to you guys all the time, but do know that I appreciate what you guys do. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for those very kind words.
Thank you. Councilmember Topa.
Thank you, Chair, Director. Thank you so much for all of you guys' hard work. I got two questions. How do we track how much revenue is coming through rail in comparison to the bus?
Sure. We can get down to the dollar amounts. The harder part would be how do we allocate if somebody has a transit pass or has capped out, how do we allocate the money from rail, bus? And we can do that. But the bigger issue is that as long as our rail system goes from East Kapolei to Stadium, it's never going to have a large ridership. The system was designed to bring people from the west side into town, into downtown, into Ala Moana, and then on to UH and Waikiki. Right now, the hard reality is that folks from your neighborhood can get into town faster on an express bus than they can getting on the rail and then transferring to another bus at Halawa. But that's because the system is interim. And as we move toward Middle Street, Airport and Middle Street, and particularly as we move down Dillingham into Kapalama, into Iwalei, into Chinatown and downtown and Kaka'ako, that's when we're going to see the real benefit of rail.
Thank you for that. And fingers crossed. Your budget has 57 million allocated to core system service and maintenance contracts. What is that for?
Basically, that is for core systems is a euphemism for that's our Hitachi partner. And their contract is about 48 million. Is that about right? And there is a little bit of mobilization in that budget for core systems as well. And that is because we are projecting to open our next segment in 2025, somewhere between the middle of the year and toward the end of the year. That's up to Hart to figure out exactly when it's going to be done. But part of that process of opening is that our core system contractor, Hitachi, will hire additional staff 3-4 months in advance of that so that they can be trained. And so that training may occur within this fiscal year. So not a lot of that, but there's some of that. Additional things there are what we call our vertical transportation. That's a euphemism for elevators and escalators. Those are difficult to maintain no matter who owns them. Everybody will tell you that vertical transportation is very tough to, and we contract that out too. A third area that we contract out is for our security services. We contract that out as well. So all of those, those are what make up part of our rail budget. In addition to that, we also have our internal staff, which is in the scheme of things pretty small, about 14 people that are there to look over all these contractors, to make sure that we're running a safe system, make sure that that the contractors are compliant. In other words, they're doing what they promised to do when we contracted with them in terms of service levels, in terms of not having too many breakdowns and all of those kind of things. All of those are monitored by our staff within our rail division.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next, we have Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Director Morton. I had a question similar to adding on to what Councilmember Tola was asking about the rail. Do you have numbers on the current ridership? I know when it started a while ago, the numbers had fluctuated from that first week or so of being free, and then it dropped after it wasn't free anymore. I was hoping you could give me current ridership, and I really would like a number of what the current expenses versus the revenue that's being brought in. I want to know what the gap is. I know it's going to be, we're in the deficit, so I want to know what that number is.
Sure. When I look at ridership, you're right. We opened a brand new system on June 30th. We made it free for the weekend. And so when I look at ridership, what I do is I start my ridership analysis on July 15th. And I do that because the opening days are just a bump and they're not really reflective. On a weekday basis, our ridership is up 17% from where it started, albeit we start from such a low base that even 17% is not something that you would write home for. My comment to you on the how much does rail contribute toward its expense, the answer would be very little, in single digits in terms of percent. And again, our projections have always been that when we get into town, and our projections are 85,000 or so riders at that point. At that point, I think we should be looking at how much the users can pay, and I'm confident that we can get a much greater return, as we should, from our transit riders.
Thank you. And like Councilmember Talbot said, we're hopeful for that. But could you give me a number? What is 17% up from July 15?
Sure.
What is that number?
It would be roughly from about 33,050 a day, a weekday, to about 3,700, which is the more recent numbers.
Wait, 33,050 or 3,000?
No, 3,050.
3,050.
Yeah.
And then you said the weekends it's.
No, the weekends. The weekends have gone down, and I can't give you a number. I have to get back to you on that. But it looks like when we first started that many Oahu residents, as kind of a fun activity, would go out on the weekends to ride the rail. That novelty is over, and so our weekend ridership now on rail resembles our ridership on bus, which is much less on a Saturday, much less on a Sunday than it is on a weekday. And I think it's in the order of 2,000 and something, 2,500 or something, but I'd be happy to get back to you the exact number.
And I was just curious, as you mentioned the 3,050, that's for the week you said, right?
For
Or
what
okay.
I call, I'm a transit nerd, excuse me, but so in transit, we look at weekday ridership because that's reflective of most people's work schedules. People go, not all of us, especially in Hawaii, but we look at weekday as one type. And in our bus system, we have weekday schedules, Saturday schedules, Sunday schedules that reflect the different riderships. In our rail system, it's automated and we run it every 10 minutes every day.
And what is the capacity that the trains could actually hold?
Capacity of the trains would be in excess of 100,000 people
Okay.
a day.
And what is the current fee to ride? Is it $3 or what was it at last?
The average fare is about $1 or something, $1.50, because most people either purchase a pass if they're a regular rider, or in our new fare system, and I encourage people, just put money on the Holo card and pay, because every month, once you reach $80, the rest of the month is free. So the average, mixing all of those things up, is about $1.50 per ride.
And when somebody gets on the rail and then has to transfer to the bus, it's the same fare right now?
It is considered just like transferring from one bus route to another. It is within a 2.5-hour period, it's free. If you ride several times a day, once you get to $7.50, the rest of the day is free. And as I said, once you put $80 into the system from your Holo card in a month, the rest of the month is free.
Okay, and so, sorry, so if you're only riding the bus, it's the same thing, $1.50? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could, again, you said that it is in the deficit, but could I get a number of what we're looking at, the current expenses versus the money that's being brought in? I know it's going to be staggering.
I can do that, but you have to understand that in order to do that, I need to make economic assumptions on how this money splits between bus and rail. And that's not as easy as it sounds, because, as I say, people can get on the rail and then they can transfer to the bus. And with a bus pass type environment, then I have to make assumptions about how much revenue goes to each one. And it's not, I can give you taps, I can give you the exact number of taps, and that's what I would base an allocation on, would be on the basis of taps. But that only tells a portion of the real economic story.
Okay, well, I guess if there's any number you could give me, you have a number of what the expenses are, regardless of the bus. You have a number of the expenses to run and operate and maintain.
Yeah.
And then if you could give me that, and then I guess an estimate, the best estimate that you
I'll give you the best I can
Okay.
come up with.
Okay, and do you have that number available now, or is that something that I have to come back and follow up with you?
I need to get a spreadsheet and do some
Okay.
assumptions on a get but I'll get it back to you.
I'd appreciate just to have an idea.
Yep.
And you mentioned in the Pearl City area, the Highlands. So now we're looking at building that over the bridge.
We're looking for, yes, that's our
Over the-
intention, is to build pedestrian bridge from the station over to the Highlands side, or the Sam's Club side, or the A&B side, or the Twin Towers side of the Kamehameha.
And that'll be really helpful. I missed it if you said earlier, forgive me, but did you mention the cost of what that would be? And is that something that you can get grants for, or is that something that we have to fund completely through the city?
It's something that I would recommend that we seek federal funding for, 80% funding. I think that the cost of a bridge like that would be excess of $40 million. So if it was $40 million, best case would be that we would identify $32 million of federal and then fund 8 of local, and maybe do that over several years so we don't get it all hit at one time. And that's why we are seeking in the RAISE grant that we submitted, the maximum grant amount in that program is $25 million. So that's what we're asking for, is 25. If we were to get that, then it would be, we'd go back to our state partners. I would be remiss if I didn't say that, the state of Hawaii has provided us $10 million last year. They're providing us $10 million next year. They're providing HART another $30 million. That's what they're trying to do. So, we look, all the federal highway money, which is what we would probably use for this bridge, would be coming through state DOT, because that's as we are the designated recipient for transit money, they are the recipient for highway money.
Do you have an approximation of how, after the funding is acquired or we figured out the funding, how long would it take to put the bridge, to have it built?
Oh, I would think it would be like a minimum 3-year project.
So this is the unique area of my district that's kind of smack dab in the middle.
And I guess our objective, council member, would be to try to get it done by the time we get our system into town.
That would be good. I think, you know, the concern from the community that's in my district was the fact that we weren't, with the parking structure not going forward for fair reasons, that there was no way for the people, Mililani, all the way towards the North Shore to access the rail. And now this is going to give us the option. I would like to see if you could give me, again, numbers of what the ridership is right now, because it is a unique area. You put up the crosswalk and the signals for the people crossing, but whenever I go to Sam's Club, I always look to see who's on the rail, and I wonder what the ridership is, because I'd like to see if it's, you know, hopefully it'll improve after we get the walkway or access to it.
And I will give you the station-by-station ridership, but I would say that Pearl Highlands is probably one of our lowest ridership stations. Maybe Ho'opili and Pearl Highlands compete for the lowest number.
And that is a concern, because it is going to be a costly bridge, and whenever I go through that area, I am trying to figure out the beauty of the possible structure was to allow people to park their cars and get on. But with this, it doesn't guarantee. It's a really remote area that there's no homes there really, other than the Twin Towers.
The other one that I would point out to you too is it's a HART project, but HART is still committed to building a directly connected H2 to Pearl Highlands Transit Center. And that's where you could take a bus that would go from Koa Ridge, for example, directly to the rail station. And since it's a direct connection to the highway, to the H2 highway, it could be like from somewhere like Koa Ridge, it could be like a 9-minute ride, and then a connection to a very close connection, because it's a dedicated transit center. So basically, drop people off just feet away from the entrance of the station, and that's my excitement in your area, is to be able to do that for areas like Koa Ridge, for Mililani, for Wahiwa, and for North Shore.
And is this possible parking structure, bus transit, you said, is there a place to park vehicles where you could park your car, get on the bus to go on the rail to ride
Absolutely, that would be part of our vision, is that we would expand the Mililani Park and Ride, for example. We would connect with Park and Ride at the Armory. We would connect with Park and Ride on the North Shore, that we would provide alternative places. And, the real goal is to have that bus in Koa Ridge that's close enough to your residence that you just leave your car at home.
Right,
That's the real vision would be to provide bus service that could do that.
So would that be a more feasible or more, positive thing to look towards versus building a $40 million bridge? And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's part of my district, but if you're saying that station has one of the lowest riderships, I'm wondering, even if we get federal funding, that's $8 million that we have to come up with, is that the best use of our funds, or should it be used solely into a project where you can park your car and then get onto the train and ride it?
Well, I actually had a conversation about this with Secretary Buttigieg, and I think and with Senator Schatz's staff as well. And I think the consensus for us is that the safety issues are so great that we need to build some alternative to get people from Pearl City across Kamehameha Highway without having to do it at ground level on a narrow highway. I mean, traditionally that's been a high-speed road, and I think it's that for the sake of everybody, I think that we need to go forward with a bridge.
And then that's fair. And we talked about the safety. I had concerns on it earlier. So are there any incidents that you know of that have happened in that area?
Thankfully,
since the
none.
Crosswalk? Okay, good. Thank you so much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Topa.
Just real quick, thank you, Chair. you know, when you hear about the possible bridge, was that bridge ever intended to be built in the very first phase? Because I just know it was going to be a parking structure, but that's not my question.
It was de-scoped, I believe.
Right. Okay, so my question is, knowing the peak hours, right? Knowing the peak hours, and knowing that we only get about 3,000 daily, and I think this is more for the public. You know, you go to neighborhood boards, you walk around, and they go, how come the thing running and nobody's in it? Are we wasting money and energy and resources? Or is this because we have to do it to set up for the next phase? Because the public don't know, Director. You know, all they see is an empty rail going back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's my question. Can maybe we do, and if we are wasting money, maybe we do run it during peak hours when the 3,000 people are jumping on this rail? That's my question. That's it.
I think that's a great question, Council Member. I wish I was there 5 years ago or 6 years ago when these contracts were let for that. The feeling was that in order to be attractive, we had to run a 10-minute service. Back then, could we have run a 20-minute service? We could have, but remember, most of the costs of running that service are not necessarily based on the frequency of the train. We do pay more for electricity. We do pay a little bit more for because we have every other train has a person on it. We pay a little bit more based on frequency, but not a lot more. I think we probably could have gone a little bit less, but again, that decision was made years ago, and we are now 18 months away from opening our next segment, and so I think that we just have to stay the course at this point.
No, I get what you're saying, and I know it's not your fault, because we just heard from Hart that we're looking at paying almost 80 million in maintenance, and then when we get to the airport, another 50 million. That's all. I mean, are we wasting resources and money? That's all. On something that we're not going to see prevail maybe in 20 years. And you and I will be gone. So that's all I'm worried about right now, how we can help people now.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. No, I mean, I asked my questions. I just wanted to say mahalo, Director, especially particularly with all your support on the centenarian holo cards. And I know we just got another one today for Betsy Tsuhaku Hako, Whitmore resident. You know, spent so much of her life volunteering in Wahiawa and really means so much to the community, because at first they were like, oh, no need. And then her daughter was like, oh, wait, we can use it to get around rail. Then definitely we want it. And I know like Jane Sasaki that we got out there before was thrilled. And, you know, just at Rainbow Seniors, when we meet with them every few months, like all their questions, you know, we're working on a handout is how do we use it? How do we get on it? And so just want to appreciate your work on that and your team's work on that, and really brightening the day for so many of our kupuna that have been waiting for the project, and it means a lot, so thank you.
And it doesn't just get you on the transit, it gets you to the zoo, and it gets you on the golf course. And if I ever have a 100-year-old or a centenarian who's playing golf, I want to be in that foursome.
If I find one, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Myself, then followed by anyone else. Okay, Councilmember Tupola. Then if there's no other one, then I'll go back to Councilmember Okimoto. But I'll look for someone else who hasn't gone yet. Okay, my first question is in relation to the transportation technology rent of offices at the Middle Street warehouse. And it says that it's $435,000 for rent of office for transit, non-transit, staffing, personal service. Can I ask what is there, and is that something that has been already budgeted for last year or last few years?
Well, it is left hand pays the right hand, because the money goes from Fund 1, which fund, 110? Highway Fund. The money goes from Highway Fund to Transit Fund. So in terms of the net for the city, it's zero. The reason we do that is because the property has a federal interest in it, and the federal interest says that it is to be used for transit only. Now, it can be used for other things, but the federal rules say if you use it for other things, you have to pay fair market rent. In this case, it's from the highway fund to the transit fund. It seems kind of silly in this transaction, but at the end of the day, it is zero. Also, on that facility, in DDC's budget this year and next year, we will be constructing a new traffic signal maintenance facility at the Pearl City Bus Garage. So that project is an ongoing project. It is well underway right now. They haven't broken ground yet, but they're getting pretty darn close to breaking ground. We hope to be out of that facility at Middle Street for traffic signals by 2025.
Okay, thank you. And at that new facility, does it have to be a whole new warehouse at the Pearl City bus facility?
Well, we're starting on that project right now. There is a cold storage building there. The roof is deteriorated, so we know there's damage. Inside the building, there's a cold storage refrigerator for truck food storage and those kind of things. So I'm hoping that as we get into that design of what that facility is going to look like, we will look at whether or not we can reuse that 20-year-old building and rehabilitate it for our purposes, as opposed to tearing it down and building a new one. That I will leave it up to the architects and engineers to determine what is the best use for that building. We could certainly use it. We also have, as we've started rail, at our Pearl Ridge station right now, that's where we have our groundskeepers and our station maintainers. They have a little shop there, but that's temporary facility. We're building that, so we know, we're going to have to shuffle them around. Probably Evile Center next for a while, and then maybe somewhere in that Middle Street Transit Center area permanently.
Okay, thank you. My next question is relating to the transportation technology, which includes a street usage permit. I know that parades go there, special events, and other things as well, right? Do we charge a fee for that, for the traffic controls and just use of the obtaining the special use fee? Permit.
Let me start by saying we don't really charge a fee for the permit itself, but usually any type of event has a tremendous outlay of money by the sponsor to pay for traffic control. That's HPD, that's our staff. All of those things are paid by the proponent of the event, whatever it is. That's now there is the opportunity that an event can become a city-sponsored event. And if it's a city-sponsored event, then we would exempt the proponent from some of the fees or all of the fees. But generally, if you have a block party or something like that, you pay all of the police and all of the extra fees that go along with that.
I think we're seeing a lot more city-sponsored parades and events, right, at the same time. So that means that then that division or your department has to shore up that funding to then pay HPD and their units as well?
Well, I think each department that contributes services absorbs it within their department. We don't pay it. But we do pay our employees, and we have several employees at any event. We'll pay the overtime and we'll pay that. But for HPD, or anybody else, EMS or anybody, the departments that provide the service pay for that, if it's a city-sponsored event.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, of course, I'm going to refer to the document that all the departments submit relating to their line items for the fiscal year that's above 50,000. I was just wondering, because there's some things that are that I would think would go in under the transportation rail division, but are in administration. Two in particular are the is the security services, which you did mention earlier, and then another one was the Skyline Cellular Services, and then of course I go down to the the rail division, And I see mainly that it's more like for, I mean, they also have contracts, but it's also mainly like signage as well as there's other types of contracts. And I don't know, it seems like we could, why is it in administration as opposed to the Transportation Rail Division?
I've noticed that myself, and I've asked the same question. But fundamentally, what it is that, for example, under the safety and security side, that's considered part of our safety and security budget. It happens that safety is a function that reports to me. And so even though it is largely rail-oriented, it doesn't have to be that way in the long term. It might mean that it could become multimodal and provide services throughout it. But right now, you're correct. On the other one, what was the other one?
It was cellular services
Okay.
for Skyline.
And again, under cellular service, we would consider that was administered by a manager that was in charge of basically marketing and those types of activities. And so the contract kind of followed the position. Arguably, it could be either way, but we have, as I said, we have our multimodal positions largely put in a central position. Maybe at some point we'll have an office of multimodal activities or something, but right now they're stuck in my administrative division.
Okay, thank you. Another thing is I know this is possibly mainly under for OTS and the bus to look at. I do have a lot of construction, I mean, not just in Kalihi, but even with Salt Lake Boulevard widening project, on Kamehameha Highway, by Aloha Stadium and whatnot. And so I was just, or even actually soon Pearl Ridge with other divisions within DTS. And I was wondering about the placement of bus stops. And then I know that if there's a certain amount of time, if we look to put more permanent structure, I don't want to say permanent structures, but permanent, I guess, seating or I guess structures for the long-term construction projects.
You know, I guess I would look to Farrington Highway in Waipahu, where we had the same situation while we were constructing on the west side. We had the in and out traffic. We had bus stops that were placed wherever the contractor could place them. But now, when you go to Farrington, after the system has been put together, I think the bus stops look great. I know there's a lot of design considerations by our engineers, architects, and planners when they look at that. And we primarily, you know, the one we have now, the big gorilla, is Dillingham, where we have lots of lots of construction going on, and bus stops are kind of placed, you know, where they go. Having said that, placement of this traffic maintenance plan, or the development of traffic maintenance plan, is something that our staffs in various divisions review very closely to make sure that we are providing ADA access and other things like that. It's not a perfect world because it is under construction, but we do our darndest to try to make sure. And if we do receive complaints from a person with a disability, we're on the contractor, or Hart's on the contractor the next day to fix it.
Thank you. Yes, me and my staff, we drive multiple times just to make reports to Hart, not to you yet, so maybe we'll get there. But my next question is in relation to when there are developments that come up, and I know that there's like that the developer consults or has to submit something to DTS regarding parking and also bike access, and a lot of the times they use Beaky for their community benefits, which is definitely not a community benefit that the developer should be even tasking as a community benefit. That's a cop-out in my opinion. So I know that we're even very lenient. Is it dependent on DTS or DPP that really is like, oh, well, yeah, you know, we're not ready to give up parking yet, but like here, yeah, you can add like a lot.
Well, the way the process works, the development will go through one-time review, which is a DPP standard review. And through one-time review, you know, that project will be circulated to all four of our divisions, and we will send our comments back to DPP. Now, DPP also has TRB, which is the Traffic Review Branch, and they pretty much are the agency that makes the final decisions. We provide our comments to TRB, but TRB by charter is the entity
Okay.
that makes the
I stand
decision.
corrected. I apologize. I'll ask them tomorrow. Thank you for that correction. I'll just have to bring the same sentiment tomorrow. Okay, my next question is, of course, we know that the bus, rail, do we know if there's any self-sustaining system in the world?
Hong Kong
Hong Kong? Okay.
is self-sustaining, and there are numerous self-sustaining systems in less developed countries that don't have. I mean, the salient feature of many less developed countries is they don't have automobile ownership like they do in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so transit becomes a necessity. And as you know, a lot of the providers are private providers that. While they may be regulated by the government, they need to make it on their own. But that's there's a wide gulf between less developed countries and the U.S.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I forgot what my question was after that, but I'll move forward. My next question is relating to, if I remember, I'll come back, or I'll submit my questions to you. My last question is relating to the micromobility plan that I think DTS has been in talks and plans to submit to the council and for us to adopt. I know that there's been discussions about such micromobility or even other types of mobility, especially as it relates to younger people. And so I don't know. I think it is incumbent on us adopting these policy rules for us to start working either with enforcement agencies and then also the schools to enact. I'm sure that you've seen the news reports about it, and I see that on Facebook and Instagram, like these kids in my district right above Pearl Ridge, just like going crazy off of their e-bikes and everything. So.
Well, first, the city owes the council some chapter within the traffic code that further defines what we will do with micromobility. That's already covered in large stroke by the state traffic code. They've already passed that rule. So right now, kids under 15 are not allowed to ride a motorized micromobility device. That's not the case in 30 other states. There are level 1 electric devices, level 2 and level 3, and in some places level 1s are allowed to be ridden by younger children, not in Hawaii. And so we do owe a amendment of our traffic code which basically allows us to further restrict what the state's already restricted. We can't make it more liberal, but we can make it more strict. So the questions that we sort of go through in our minds is, right now kids under 15 have to wear a helmet, but we see them not wearing helmets all over the place, right? So maybe it's number one, it's an education issue more than a legal issue, because the law is already clear that you can't be under 15 and not wear a helmet. So maybe we need to educate the parents. Maybe we need to step up with HPD to try to get enforcement going a little bit too. But again, I caution because, we are a little bit of the outlier in Hawaii with the low-powered ones that go 7 miles an hour and those kind of things. When I go to a middle school, I see even the school administration, they're facilitating this. They're making parking places. They're doing all of these things. So, and I don't really want to start enforcing something that becomes silly, really. So maybe it is education, maybe it is enforcement, and maybe it's just kind of looking at exactly what we want to do as a city and county. but that's the best I can. I know we're a little bit late in getting that. I would also offer that from myself as a director, I'm not in favor of having these devices rented on the public street. Right now, the electric ones are rented on private property, and whether that's legal or not, it's tolerated. But I don't want to start concessioning out our sidewalks to store electric scooters or bicycles because they'll just become a nuisance for us.
Okay, just a comment that a little late. We've been waiting for it since I was transportation chair, and this is my second year being budget chair. So we were already a year late when I was transportation chair. So I just wanted to let that be known. And also, I do look forward to having it come to the council. And speaking of education, just a comment. Of course, I know I'm pretty sure I might be in the minority on this, relating to the education that we have about, I guess putting a lot of the I don't want to say blame, but responsibility on pedestrians when it really should be on cars. Cars kill people more than pedestrians hurt cars. So I honestly think we need to think about these types of education. But that's just a comment from my side. Okay, thank you. Okay, Councilmember Topola, I forgot.
No, it's
forgot
okay.
where I was. I thought I wasn't having a.
No, I
Thank
agree.
you.
No one can disagree that we always need more education. So HPD does some wonderful training for some of the young kids and pedestrians. I have 3 short questions. First off, bus passes and FestPack. So for MOCA, which is our Office of Culture and the Arts, they said they're going to buy bus passes for the Pacific Festival, which is coming up this summer. Is there something that, DTS could do to partner as opposed to us using that? We put aside $200,000 for them to support this festival because there'll be thousands of people here enjoying it. What are your thoughts?
For the Great Aloha Run, we did a very nice card that we made for that run, a memento card, that was, but we did charge the people the full price for buying them, and we sold out. So which was only 500, but we didn't give them a discount. Now, we have a group of 700 engineers from 13 California colleges that are coming to a recruitment fair, among other things. They're coming for a conference, but one of the days of the conference is recruitment of graduating engineers, which we want desperately in the city. And so I traded them for the recruitment space at the UH in return for free transportation for those. I got Corps' okay on that, and it's part of the ordinance that says that that the director is allowed to allow people to board city buses and rail without payment of fare as part of an offer of a promotional package or offer. And so Corps opined that the value of the potential recruitment of engineers when we're so short of engineers was a good trade. And so the answer is that we've never done it as a sponsored activity. And I think that the council, I don't know if the council has the authority within the ordinance to do that, but the council has some authority to do things, but it would, I will go back and research whether a sponsored city event could be used for that, or whether, because when a group like that comes to town, we're gonna generate revenue from them. And if we give it away free, then we're not going to generate any revenue. So it's on the one hand, we want to get as much revenue as we can. At the other hand, we value the externalities that some of these large groups that come here do, and we want to keep them off the roads and on transit so they don't,
Right. So, and I think you've already brought up a lot of good suggestions, a memento card that maybe they can keep with them as them being here in Hawaii for the FestPack. So we'll throw some of this over to MOCA and see if they can come up with a great collaboration with your department as opposed to just straight out buying. Are you going to show me something?
Yeah, you can't see it, but this is our Great Aloha Run card.
Awesome.
And it was made for them. And this was our Aloha Secretary Pete card which we made for the secretary's inspection visit of Skyline too. So
Well, thank you.
we can do that.
I appreciate you guys' creativity and making it a special thing for people. My next question is, when will we be getting updates on which, I know DOT is partnering well with you guys to do the speed humps. In fact, they've taken over in a lot of like the neighborhoods in front of schools. I've asked your office a couple times. You guys have said, okay, DOT is doing it. Like, how do we follow up with that, seeing as though it is a city street, but DOT is taking it over?
Okay, there's two parts. When they put speed humps in, they're putting them usually on city streets, and they're not taking us over. They're simply doing us a favor by doing that. And I have nothing but thanks to Director Sniffen for doing it, because his group can do it in a matter of a month or two, whereas we do it in a matter of a year or two. So it gets done much faster under that, and he's very out front about that. Now, in terms of taking over streets, I did mention that the governor unilaterally transferred several Kakako streets to the city. We are in discussions with Director Sniffen over whether we take over Paakea Road in your neighborhood, and also the private section of that and the city section of that. So the stars are aligned for those kinds of discussions. But I feel for Tyler and for DFM, whenever we take over a street, we're taking over the responsibility for rehabilitation, paving, and all of that stuff. And for a department that is already way behind in deferred maintenance, they push back when they weren't happy with taking over Kakako streets. We could never agree on doing that. So ultimately, the workaround was the governor just did it unilaterally. And to that, I mean, the Department of Transportation is going to help us in funding. So there's going to be that part, but it's there are other places where you see the city and county highway begin, and we just recently we entered into a memorandum of agreement that said if the state's paving a state road and they cross a city road, that they don't stop paving and start on the other side of the intersection. They go right through. And we agreed through an MOU that going forward, we'll do the same thing on a city paving job as well. So some of these things almost sound crazy that we haven't done them years ago, but right now the relationship between the transportation agencies is really good.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I saw that Ed put in $3 million for Paakea, which I still have some CIP money. I did offer to him when he starts the EIS how we can partner, but that's the only way forward. Work with them, and he's been so good to work unilaterally in city streets, doing things that we consequently need done at the same time. My last question is, based on your handout, it says you guys have about $10 million in revenue, and you're cresting about $13 million for your budget. Is that correct? So you guys really make that much money and you only need that much money?
No, we need a lot more.
Okay. Yeah.
Not sure which one you.
I might have to add like 3 or 4 sheets together to understand that, but
okay.
I definitely think that, you guys do generate a lot of revenue, and you've been good at trying to maintain some federal grants and other revenues so that there isn't just a big hole. So keep up the good work, Director.
Yeah. Somewhere in the budget, incidentally, to a previous question, there is, under sources of revenue, deep down in the bowels of the budget, there is a line item that shows what the last 3 years of federal capital funding was. I looked at it. I don't know if it's in my binder, but it is in the big city budget.
The federal capital funding for your department or all together?
Well, there's one that details out by department, and that's somewhere. If you like, I mean, I will send you that page by.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Really quickly, on page 7, I forgot to ask you these questions. I apologize. You have the revenue enhancement opportunities. So I was going to ask you questions about the top 2. The first was the DOE student transportation. And we know that this is an interesting situation where actually the city and the state we collide because of the buses for the schools. Is that what this is? I was hoping you could give me an update on what the situation is now. I think this is an interesting one where we would get calls from our constituents, or I get calls about the schools, but it's, the schools are state, but we're the city buses or the school buses.
So, and I'll speak to this probably at the next budget committee meeting too, but in rough terms, the state had a hard time with school bus drivers, and they couldn't fill all the school buses, so they came to the city and they asked the city whether we could work out a deal with them where kids could use a city bus. So we have that's a program that's only open to high school kids. It's not open to middle school. It is a parental choice program. In other words, before the DOE will give a student a transit pass, they must get a permission from the parent. And so what are the results? There are about 30,000 high school students at 22 DOE schools on the island. We have about 16,500 students participating in the DOE school bus program. We are in receipt of we are due to be paid $6.5 million or so by DOE for the service. If the DOE provided school bus service, we know what it costs for school bus service. It's about $2,000 per year per student. And so if, and that really adds up. The cost of the city bus program for DOE is about $3.20, $320 per year, 32 times 10, since DOE does it for 10 months of the year. Beyond that, the city pays a large subsidy for the balance of the cost of that. But here's the thing, is that we would run the service whether we had the students or not. And so from that point of view, it's just extra revenue for us. Our net extra revenue is about $4 million, and that's largely without incurring any additional cost.
Okay, sorry, Director, I was trying to get all the numbers right. And I have to correct myself. We're the city buses, not the school buses. So right now, the DOE is, for the most part, are they at all employing these school buses or not?
No, they use as many school buses as they can, but they tend to prioritize them in the places where there aren't any city bus service, and they tend to prioritize them for special ed students that require special equipment.
On the regular school buses, not the
the special ed school buses are regular school buses, but they tend to be the smaller ones.
Right. And so right now you're saying that for high school students, and I think I actually signed up for this, and as a parent, I don't believe the parents are paying for it. The school does, right now. The DOE is paying the city for the passes, correct?
That's correct.
So if a pass is given out, but this, because I think, again, my daughter has one of these, but never rides the bus, how do we're not, I guess, there's no charge unless the student rides the bus? Or?
Yeah, and because of that, we did give the state a discount for which I will receive authority on third reading on Bill 2, hopefully, because we did provide a discounted rate. The state wanted to pay $25 a month, and I looked at the numbers and I charged $32. I negotiated. And then I was told, I thought I had the authority to negotiate, but I was told by our Corps that I actually didn't have that authority. So I'm hoping that you folks will pass Bill 2 when it comes to you on third reading. It's gone past second reading already.
So we don't know actually. You agreed, you anticipate 6.5 million by DOE, the passes are given up, but we don't actually know, is there tracking of like the ridership?
Absolutely, there's tracking of all the ridership, and that's one reason when we discount the fare is because I know that when you give somebody a free pass, somebody will necessarily take it, but they may not use it. And so the revenue that we receive is I mean, some people say I should just charge them 40, but I know if it's handed out by DOE paying for it, it won't be used as much as somebody who actually pays $40 for a pass. And that turned out to be right. We have the numbers. And so, the city's getting a good deal. The DOE is getting a good deal. And hopefully our children are getting a good deal too.
And we are looking at how long would this last? How long do you anticipate this going on?
I did receive some bad news that the state is reevaluating the program as they are all state non-discretionary programs. They made that clear to all the departments that all there are no sacred cows. All programs that are not entitlement programs are under review. All state departments are expected to find 10 to 15% of savings within their own departmental budget. So I'm hoping that because this program, I believe, saves the state money, I'm hoping that it will be renewed, but I know that it is under review, as are countless other state programs right now, just because of the situation we're in with the state budget.
So this anticipated formula net, this projection is if they continue with it?
No,
or this is what we're anticipating
they
for
owe us money for
2025?
this year. I just
For
need to
this
collect
year.
it.
Okay, but for next year, we don't know.
For next year, we don't know, and the worst case would be that we would go back to those students that wanted a school bus would pay $40 for it. And the state has always had a school bus program for lower income students, but this is a universal program for everybody, and that one, I'm hoping it won't be, but it could be at jeopardy for the next school year.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, really quickly, this marketing opportunities targeting visitors. I'm guessing maybe the cars that you described. What are we looking at, and how much revenue are we actually anticipating by targeting visitors, and how are we doing that?
Well, we've had a couple of wholesalers that have come forward, and primarily these are Asian wholesalers. JTB, JAL have come forward, and basically what they've told us is that their clients are used to riding public transportation. They like riding public transportation, but they have several barriers when they get to Honolulu. One is they don't know where to get a holo card. Number two is they can't figure out our bus system. And number three is they don't stay 7 days, they only stay 4 days. So we are trying to work with the agencies, with the agencies to see if we can adopt ourselves. And my philosophy is this. My philosophy is anything we do for visitors has to be at a higher rate of return than our residents pay, and has to be revenue added, that where we balance our system, not adding service for this, but to try to let people know how to use public transportation. And lots of Japanese visitors, particularly, they use the bus. A lot of them go to Skyline because they've seen it in Japanese newscasts, and they want to go see it. They know the Hitachi tree is right down the road from Skyline. And so just anecdotally, when I go to ride Skyline, I'm often, directing a couple of Japanese tourists to how to use the holo machine and how to navigate it. And so we're just going to try to reduce those barriers. One of them is to have a 3-day pass product. And one of them is, and JAL says that they will talk us up within their what they call their Aloha Station, which is an area where they basically corral visitors who are coming here in the morning, and they try to entice them to buy things. And so they came to us. So we didn't go to them. They came to us, and they said, you guys could do a lot better if you just improved your marketing for these things. And that's what we're going to try to do. They estimated, my estimate is about $1.5 million.
You read my mind. Okay, thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up on that point about visitors having a hard time accessing our bus system and rail system. And as somebody that takes the bus fairly frequently, including from the airport, I see this confusion myself. I know that we're going to have a Skyline station at Lilipaua at the airport, but in the meantime, are there any plans to install a holocard dispenser machine at the baggage claim or on the inner island terminal bus area? I mean, just to make it as easy as possible. I think if I were a tourist, especially a foreign one that doesn't have 3 single dollar bills, maybe they have hundreds or 50s, I mean, it would be very difficult, right?
Yeah, we have had discussions with Daniel K. Inouye Airport to do that. At some point, because the people we talk to are the commercial managers of the space, they say, sure, you can have one. What's our cut? And I think we need to elevate that conversation to a higher level at the airports or within the DOT to have that conversation. That's one issue. The other issue for us is that we're committed to a concept called open payments, where instead of having to get a holo card, you can use a contactless credit card directly. And it'll give you capping, it'll give you the discounted fares, it'll do all of that stuff. But it means the city doesn't have to spend money to buy cards. We're not there technologically yet. We hope to be there in about 18 months. So I'm not sure I want to put in and go through the effort of putting in vending machines if in fact we're going to do it, because they're not made yet, and it would probably take us a year to get something like that here. And then if everything goes right, we would have a better solution. The other one, if you want to think even further, would be that and we've talked to Japan Airlines about this, is maybe when you buy your fare from to come to Honolulu, maybe it asks you, do you need a hotel? Do you need to rent a car? Would you like a transit pass? And maybe that transit pass could be automatically added via an app to your phone. So to me, vending machines and even these holo cards are yesterday's technology, and we should be looking at trying to figure out a way that we can use our mobile phones and use our contactless credit cards instead of using cards that the city issues.
I guess for me, this brings up then many other questions that maybe we'll explore in the Transportation Committee.
Sure.
But have there been any discussions with some of the outside of security, so post-security or pre-security vendors like Starbucks and the baggage claim about selling holo cards? Again, we want to make it as accessible as possible. And I know 18 months from now, maybe we'll be able to use a credit card. But until that happens, I want to make it as easy as possible for our tourists to ride the bus, not have to get a rental car.
The tourist industry is very adept at selling items, but the barrier for us is they expect something in return. They want to make money when they sell an item. The dilemma for us is that our item is a subsidized card already to the tune of 80% city funded, 20% passenger fare, and so we don't have a lot of room to provide commission or some kind of financial return for whoever's going to sell it. So far, our vendors have been civic minded. They sell these things without commission, but even there, we are increasingly receiving some concern over from our vendors. So that's the answer is yes, I would love to be able to do that, but most of the commercial partners want to get a commission if they sell a product.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Director Morton.
Thank you.
Or do you want to have any one of your staff that dressed up to say something? Nope. Okay.
We took a nice picture.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Department of Enterprise Services, followed by Department of Customer Services, then followed by Department of Environmental Services, all the services for today. Okay, so we have in Department of Enterprise Services, which is Departmental Communication 165, and I will let you folks transition to your presentation. So take your time, no rush. A little bit rush. No rush, but hurry up. Okay. Oh. The Department of Enterprise Services presentation is Departmental Communication 165 for those online or watching via Olelo. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Director. All right, thank you. Welcome to Director Hollifield.
Good afternoon, Budget Chair Cordero and council members. My name is Dita Hollyfield, DES Director. With me today is Deputy Director Tracy Kubota, Administrative Services Officer Denise Peterson, and Division Heads Jay Park Customer Services, Sean Enos Building Services, Jordan Abe Golf Courses, and Linda Santos, the Honolulu Zoo. Having been on the job for about 6 months now, I feel very fortunate to have learned so much and understand that it takes a lot of working, collaborating in order to provide us, the public, with the best possible services. We embrace teamwork and open communication and extend our appreciation to all of you for your support today. We now would like to share with you the budget for the Department of Enterprise Services. DES mission focuses on managing and marketing our facilities and services for the public to use, visit, and enjoy. Today, we have prioritized our budget requests to invest in necessary and lasting improvements. This strategy will keep our doors open today and, most importantly, in the future. Our initiatives consist of projects identified in our facilities maintenance plans, which are not glamorous, but the responsible thing to do to address maintenance and upkeep needs of our aging facilities. For the auditorium divisions, we are continuing to renovate our facilities to address health, safety, and modernization needs to improve the customer experience. The auditorium's operating budget requests includes repair, replacements, and servicing to ensure daily operations of the Blaisdell Center and the Waikiki Shell. We have worked closely with DDC to strategically sequence our construction projects so we can continue to provide services to the public and not close our campuses completely. This will allow us to continue to host a diversity of events, including graduations, cultural events, high school and collegiate sports tournaments, performing arts, world-class concerts like Janet Jackson this weekend, and just announced this morning, Carrie Underwood. Next, the golf division budget focuses on maintaining golf operations to ensure safety and playability of all 6 of our municipal courses 7 days a week. Keeping our golfers safe and keeping our grounds well-maintained are critical for retaining players and attracting new golfers of all ages to our courses. Golf has invested in course improvements and a marketing strategy to bolster revenue generation, which I will explain later in our presentation. The Honolulu Zoo's budget focuses on meeting and maintaining the Association of Zoo and Aquariums accreditation standards and investing in AZA required trainings and programs for our staff. The zoo will be applying for accreditation this September and will be inspected in early 2025. Next, we have evaluated the inventory of concessions within the DES department and DPR facilities to determine proper fit, function, and enhance revenue generation. In effort to advance our concessions program, we have focused on our review of our concessions to determine what is working well and identifying and refining solicitations to support greater success. We have drafted new solicitation formulas to include providing incentives and attract quality concessions and ensuing long-term success. These ideas include extending contract durations from 5 to 10 years, which allows for adequate time for concessionaires to recoup their investments, and fine-tuning monthly payment formulas to either offer flat fees or percentage-based calculations to also improve revenue generation. In addition, we have recently launched a new initiative to make sure we are on the right track with our solicitations through an online request for feedback form. This tool allows for community outreach and the collection of information ideas to increase the chances of solid prospective bidders. We have published the request for feedback links on our website for food and beverage concessions for Poly and Westlock locations, and soon we'll post additional sites. In follow-up to many inquiries from council members and the community, we wanted to update you with an interim measure. We have started this month to provide mobile food truck services at the Poly and Westlock golf courses. We plan to continue this until a successful contract is awarded. Eva Beach Golf Course Food and Beverage is currently out to bid, and we are anxiously awaiting the outcome of this solicitation, as we will use what we learned from this process to put out the next F&B solicitations for our golf courses. This slide reflects DES operating budget expenditures by character. We utilize 3 separate special funds for auditoriums, golf, and zoo. Row 1, our positions remain flat. We are requesting a 4.6 increase in salaries to cover collective bargaining agreement increases. This amount is necessary to cover our daily operations of our 7-day facilities and afford us the ability to manage and fill our vacancies in a timely manner. $716,000 of the $767.25 in current expenses is comprised of above ceiling requests for the zoo to maintain AZA accreditation standards, which include $460,000 for improvements for the HEPA system, $16,000 to cover travel and lodging for 4 inspectors for the AZA accreditation, $205,000 to replace a collapsing sump at the giraffe exhibit, and also various repairs and upgrades to exhibits and zoo grounds. Lastly, our overall equipment request based on equipment replacement program needs for all of our divisions reflect a 45% decrease. Our total operating budget request is $30.4 million. Next, we present vacancies. As February 1, 2024, DES had 52 vacancies. To date, 6 positions have already been filled, bringing us to 46 vacancies. We have prioritized filling our positions based on each division's operational needs and are now working diligently on filling 34 instead of the 40 by July 1, 2024. Of the 34 vacancies, we've already selected 8 positions and are currently interviewing for 3 of those positions. We plan filling the remaining 12 vacancies in FY25. This year, we have thoughtfully considered what resources are needed to run our operations effectively and gain efficiencies. We've identified 12 positions we would like to review, reorganize, or reallocate to best suit our needs, driving growth and retention. We do not have any plans to abolish any positions. This slide reflects DES's overtime requests broken down by division. Hourly calculations are based on operational management needs to cover 7 days a week operations in all of our divisions. Our holiday overtime request is based on 14 holidays in FY25, which is anticipated to cost approximately $2,000 less than what FY24, since FY25 has 1 less holiday as it is a non-election year. Non-holiday overtime hours were calculated based on an evaluation of prior year's usage to provide optimal coverage for operations when staff calls out sick, take vacation, family leave, etc. We use overtime to cover operational needs and lapse when we do not use. Now on to revenues for DES. We anticipate an overall increase of approximately 12%, primarily due to auditorium's revenues, which is projected to have a 117% increase as the first phase of construction projects have been completed and our facilities have been reopened, including the concert hall, slated to open March of 2025. We are working on initiatives to increase bookings and market share. We anticipate revenues for concessions under the administration division to increase by $130,000 based on our projections from 3 of our food and beverage concessions. Zoo revenues are projected to remain steady at $150 million. Now I would like to explain our golf division revenues. Golf revenues reflect a 4.7 decrease and are projected to be conservative at the post-pandemic high has now subsided. With the ability to utilize our new online reservation system to closely monitor our data and trends, we are learning a lot about our golfer demographics, and we are tweaking our operations to entice more golfers to play our courses. These efforts, combined with aggressive marketing strategy, resulting in the golf division hitting revenue high of $1 million in January and $1 million in February. We are learning that promoting our courses, investing in public awareness outreach, including a bi-monthly Muni Monday radio show, partnerships with junior golf programs, professional golf icons, community touches, and constant dialogue with industry partners has increased our social media following and a slightly younger demographic of golfers. With these efforts, we hope to eventually stabilize and grow our revenues in FY26. Our CIP request is programmed for just under $13 million. DES CIP requests prioritize health, safety, and modernization needs for all facilities listed on page 29 of Bill 13. $5.8 million is requested to complete funds needed to address concert hall improvements to include ADA accommodations in the lobby, new restrooms, and lighting upgrades. Funding for the Blaisdell campus has been requested in phases to allow to continue to provide services to the public. The current construction projects for the concert hall back of house is scheduled to be completed in March of 2025 to allow us to accommodate a Broadway in Hawaii season. The Waikiki Shell will close October 2024 to February 2025 to address much-needed electrical upgrades with HECO. Golf course improvements of $1.79 million will allow for parking lot improvements at Eva Villages, the design of a new irrigation system and pump station improvements also at Alawai Villages, the removal of an underground gas storage tank, and installation of above-ground storage at the Alawai. $150,000 is requested for the planning and design of a new maintenance facility to replace the aged structure at the Poly Golf Course. The Honolulu Zoo is requesting $770,000 for the design of Phase 1B of the Hawaiian Island exhibit at the zoo front entrance. This project includes an aviary and a holding facility to house a Hawaiian wetland bird population. The overall exhibit is intended to be built in phases to design critical native habitats for the ocean, from the ocean to the mountain, to support endangered native bird species found in Hawaii. Phase 1A is currently under construction. $2.235 million for zoo improvements address AZA accreditation needs. This includes comfort station renovations, Savannah Walkway and guardrail improvements, renovation of the cheetah viewing bunker to address the roof and flooding, modifying the orangutan exhibit to jointly house gibbons, renovation of the Montserrat Comfort Station, improvements to the event lawn area, and the design of a Binturong exhibit. $2.025 million is requested to construct a new holding facility to support animal care needs. As an update, DES has been fortunate to participate in the city's energy efficiency initiatives. This includes installation of LED lighting at the Blaisdell along walkways and solar panels in the parking structure. Also, LED lighting in the golf course clubhouses, cart barns, maintenance shops, and parking lots. And PV panels on our clubhouses at the Poly and Westlock and in the parking lot of the Alawai. And lastly, our project we'd like to update you on is the Waikiki Surf Racks, which is on page 28 of the CIP bill. This requests $460,000 to design surfboard lockers at Cohio Beach. We are working with DDC and understand a feasibility study is currently underway. This will help us determine where and how the new surfboard lockers will be designed and built. This concludes our CIP presentation.
Thank you very much, Director Hollifield. Oh, yes, thank you.
I was just going to thank everyone so much for your support, and it's just an honor to be here today.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions? We have Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Not so much a question, but I wanted to compliment you and your staff. The exercise of voting for the Honolulu Zoo, I think, has really brought to light how much of a gem that facility is, and so I'm really grateful for the proposal that you're putting in, and look forward to meeting the new Binturongs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, myself and then followed by Councilmember Tupola. Okay, so first up, thank you very much for your presentation. My question for the golf course is, I know that Kahuku Golf Course is one of the 6 golf courses that we have, right? And I know during the town halls, I know that was brought up a lot, and discussing about how we can address that. And I was wondering if there's any updates to any renovations or maintenance of Kahuku Golf Course?
Currently, we do not have any updates. I will get back to you. But I wanted to say that what a gem Kahuku is. I know as mayor went out to the town halls, and of course many of you joined him as such, one of the most well-attended town halls and enthusiastic crowd was definitely out on the North Shore. So I feel like it's super important. We feel very passionate in our division to move forward and try to do the best that we can for that community.
Thank you. And I know that not just for the golf courses, but the other concession areas and different places, but how do you determine preventive measures to then put into the CIP or for construction or updates to the facilities? So is there a particular span of time? Do you have a consultant to look at the facilities that then determines that?
We spend a lot of time really trying to look at all of the concessions that we have in front of us. Just depends on what each one of them and their needs. You know, they're all little mini businesses. And so each facility has its own character and it has its own challenges as well.
Thank you. And so there's no, I guess, metrics that you use to determine that?
If it's okay with the time, I'll bring up Deputy to address that answer for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Deputy Director Tracy Kubota. So about the concessions, you're talking about upgrades to that? Can you just clarify the question?
Oh, I'm just wondering for the facilities, I know that in the budget book, especially the operating budget book, it mentioned the facilities are going to be, there's going to be funding for operating budget for preventive measures for different facilities, including concessions, golf courses, and whatnot. How do you determine that? Are there performance metrics, or do you have a consultant to help you determine which facilities should be taken care of? Or do you have like a time span of when you look at these things?
I think, you know, for the facilities that are in our golf courses and are in DS properties, we do work closely with DDC. So our staff identify what might be part of operating budget needs that we can do that are immediate repairs and improvements to things to, upgrade facilities, including restrooms. However, some of the concession models we're also looking at that you folks were helpful to support us on was to extend the life of, the duration from 5 to 10 years for our concessions, which will then be put into a solicitation to be borne by a concessionaire so that they could also provide some upgrades to the facilities as needed as they mobilize their operations. So it's a combination, and so we do assess, like Director was saying, on a case-by-case based on what the needs are, the situation of the facility, and where we're headed.
Okay, okay, thank you. And is there a chance, I know that we've been talking to different agencies today about them working with DLM to look for city property. I know that DES, operates out of their own properties as well. Is there room to possibly help other agencies expand? We were talking to a lot of legal agencies, such as prosecuting attorney, corporation counsel, ethics commission, and they're all like sharing 2 or 3 in a cubicle, and so I don't know. I'm just asking. They never asked to ask. They said we're fine with sitting very close to each other, but I may as well just ask.
You're talking about like just space availability?
Just space in general.
Actually, right now we're pretty tight as far as what we need for our operations. So we're always willing to discuss, but at this point, we really do have limited space available for shared use.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
We have some limited, it's very limited, the space available for shared use.
Okay, understood. Thank you for responding with that.
Thank you.
Excuse me. My next question is for either one of you. I know that we were joking about having to rake the leaves for the after maintenance day over and over again for the zoo, and I was wondering, are you looking at different foliage or different types of different foliage that may have better maintenance lifespan? Not lifespan, I don't know, but foliage that doesn't, I guess, shed as often, so that the call out. I know that Councilmember Say, he's not here. Councilmember Say was also one of the people that would help out with the maintenance days, but just a question.
So, the zoo has been working really, really hard on trying to ensure that the maintenance of the areas, including the exhibits, public spaces, has been well planned. I know, we try to ensure that we don't exacerbate what we can and we have to do, but their botanical aspect of the zoo is very, very important to them. It provides food, it provides shade, it provides habitat. And what they do is they work closely. We have a horticulturist, the zoo team, the animal care specialist. They all work together to ensure what's being provided is necessary to support the zoo. The specialized plants that we have, we work with DUF as well, with Department of Parks and Rec. And we do try to maintain, of course, any of the trees that are noted and as special, and all the things that do support the food supply for the zoo.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And in relation to the zoo, I was wondering if there's any empty space by chance, or any space that is looking to be populated. And the reason why I asked this, I think it was, Councilmember, my committee vice chair, I think we were talking about, no. Who was I talking to? I don't forget who I was talking to, because we were talking about a sister city park, and then and I was saying like, oh, I want it in my district. Actually, maybe I think I was talking to my staff about this. Actually, sorry, not a council member. And then, but a good opportunity is like where there's already staffing and in a place where there is a charge as well, and also can have maintenance, and so I was just wondering if there was space that would love to be taken up by some foliage at the zoo.
So if you mean like, some kind of planting program or some partnership, we're always open to discuss what opportunities might be available. However, a lot of what's already being planned for the open spaces of the zoo, not open spaces, but the available spaces, as we just mentioned, we're going to be doing the new Binturong exhibit where we had Spider Monkey, places that we had already taken down an empty display or something is being filled. They're master planning the future for the next 20 years, going out to anticipate what parts of the breeding and species survival plan programs that they want to support, and what other things might be in the horizon for also providing foliage and botanical aspects to support. So, we're always open for discussions.
Okay, thank you. That, or I was going to say, I was hoping you would say no so that I could make a case for my own park, but that's good. We can have a discussion.
But
Thank you.
if it's for like a park purpose, it's a separate thing, but it really does have to comport with the master plan of
Right.
what the zoo does need for their animal care.
Okay, thank you. My next question is relating to the feasibility study. I know that we were talking for Kuhio, the lockers at Kuhio Beach. How much money are we, I guess, losing out on that we did make from those lockers that we're not making now?
Do you recall the dollar amount that we made monthly for lockers? I think we have to check to get that dollar amount because I don't recall off the top of my head. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I can put it into the budget questions that we send out to the departments.
Okay, but we are still providing the interim free lockers to the community for the ADA and the seniors from our current concession as a temporary measure.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Thank you.
Thanks.
And so, I know DDC has requested feasibility studies for other things. So do we know how long that's going to be taking, this
I
feasibility
think they
study is going
mentioned
to take?
it was going to be about 8 weeks before we have some kind of first indication of that to give us some information. So we'll continue to update you as we know what's happening.
Okay, that's good.
Sure.
It sounds better than I think another department that said they, CCSR, when they had to get money for another grant because DDC said they needed a feasibility study and then they had to come back for the same money. I'm just sharing. Okay, my next question is relating to Blaisdell. I know that we're talking master plans, we're talking upgrades already, but just generally, can you give an update on the master plan updates for ADA as well as the parking structure and just everything else there?
Yes, thank you for the question. We are very excited. Currently, right now, the concert hall is closed for renovations and addressing the very things that you just asked about. We will be opening in March of 2025 in time for the Broadway and Hawaii season, as discussed earlier. So we are on track at this point in March, where we will also have the Waikiki Shell completed from the HECO upgrades. We'll have all of our venues on full cylinder, ready to go and be open for business.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that and look forward to it. And no upgrades to your offices over there?
Currently, we just did the suites and the X Hall, so there were already some really great renovations, and so those were addressed within the last year.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And are you also looking to attract more outside users that both pay a fee to Blaisdell so that, how are you looking to attract more people to utilize that?
Thank you for that question. I'm really excited. We had just filled one of the vacancies that we had with a Cracker Jack sales and marketing person that we recruited from another high-level facility. And so what we're going to be doing is to really become an outreach, as not just a facility of four walls. We are looking to get a bigger share of the market, and we're doing a lot of outreach and looking for more businesses. Plus, we're meeting with all the promoters. We're always talking to people about what they can do to bring business to our facilities.
Thank you. Thank you, Director, and thank you, Deputy Director. Okay, Councilmember Tupola.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Aloha, Director. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Awesome. A couple questions. First one is on the subsidized funded vacancies. It has the asterisk reflects the deletion of 30 deactivated positions. Can you help me understand what is deactivated versus abolished, or what does that mean? It just means that it's there but not funded?
I'm going to have Deputy Director assist me with this answer.
Yes, you're correct about that. They're not funded. They're positions that we have in our position count, but we're not funding them and we don't plan to fill them.
So, because we've had this discussion with every department, everyone thinks that they can fill 80 positions or whatever the number is. Have you seen it advantageous to just deactivate it versus abolish it in the event you might need it, but you're not putting funds towards it? Is that what it's doing?
So we haven't needed these positions for this current fiscal year, so we have deactivated them from us in the total count of what we're planning to fill. and they remain deactivated. So what we do is if we need to activate something, we deactivate another just to ensure that we have the balance. As we're special funded, we need to be able to cover the costs. We need our operational budget to meet the needs. As we generate revenues, we can do more things. However, in this sense, what we're doing today, we're just basically keeping our requests as such to hit our optimal needs.
Well, and I think also it's probably helping you to balance it better because this means you're not putting funds towards something you're not filling, right?
Exactly.
So I think everyone should maybe take a page here. Deactivated positions are awesome. You know, you can still use them later, but then because you guys are funded differently, you do it in this way, which really helps us to balance the budget better. My next question was about the golf courses, you know, on that revenue page. And I appreciate hearing that you guys are going with a food trucks until the concession stands are ready, because let's just not waste time. So thank you for doing a creative solution. The golf courses was the only one in revenue that came down a little. Can we not do Top Golf?
So it was mutually decided upon not to move further with the Top Golf.
And so we're just going to continue to just try to advocate for the way that it is and just have golfers come out and such.
So one of the things we're trying to do is to activate driving ranges on all of the golf courses, as well as moving forward our concessions. Those will be big revenue drivers, and really making sure that our courses are inviting to different tournaments and things. We've really started outreach and make sure that we're inviting people to come and play, which we've really never been as strong in that area before.
When you say we decided not to pursue Top Golf, is that a indefinite decision, or for the next 4 years we haven't, or like how is it just, you don't have to give me a long answer, but is it just a interim decision?
I'm sorry? When we say we mutually, they decided as well, Top Golf. They decided not to pursue a partnership with the city.
I see. So auditoriums, on the other hand, up 117% in revenue. So specifically for this, you guys have just been doing way more marketing, because even though you want to see all the revenue go up for every line item, let's be honest, if you guys are rocking it at auditoriums, then bring that all the way up, right? So how did this happen?
I think it's a combination. Obviously, just reopening and inviting people to come with a better facility. That's one of the reasons we just, opened up our doors and completed our construction projects. But I do feel really proud of what we're doing in our efforts of outreach. I know that was one of the things that you and I talked about when we first started together. And you really put on my heart that I really need to be involved in outreach. So we have gone all the way across the finish line in terms of meeting with people, inviting people, giving tours, encouraging people, and teaching people, mentoring new promoters on how to use our facilities wisely.
No, it's so great. I mean, your expenses are about $30 million and minus your CIP, and your revenue is about 26.8. Me and Councilmember Tobo were saying you guys might be, generating exactly how much you need to sustain yourself. So you're just a few million away. I guess, I think that everything you're doing is great, and anything we can do more to help is awesome. My last two asks, and this is jokingly, not jokingly. I do think that DTS needs help marketing the rail for rail ridership, and just a thought, because you guys have to do a lot of marketing and outreach. They could use some help there. And I also think, getting maybe a solid contract or a few gigs for the Royal Hawaiian Band. I just think two things that, your department is exemplary in is obviously generating enough revenue for your asks, but also really being forward-facing to the public in an exciting way. Because even though we have real property tax that comes in, we should not shy away from any opportunity that we have for facilities to make money. Let's be honest. We can then take that money and use it for other things. So thank you for that example. And when you can, drop your little marketing hints over there, because I do think that it's a skill, it's a talent to be able to do that, and you bring such years of experience to this particular department, and we've been benefiting from that. So thank you, Director.
Thank you so much. And I will tease Director Morton that the 17% increase that he is enjoying currently right now, we actually had met about 4 months ago, and we started a partnership. So I've been mentoring their division. I'm not taking full credit, but I'll take a tiny little piece of it.
Well, I think the more partnerships we can get there, the better. So anything you can do. Thanks, Director. Thanks,
Yes.
Chair.
Thank you, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. No, I didn't have too many questions, but I just wanted to flesh out this park idea that Chair was bringing up. Because, so Baguio in the Philippines has a sister city park, right? And so all of their sister cities have a location where they have plants from their particular part of the world. And so we don't need an answer today, but just hearing her talk about it, I think the zoo could be a place to contemplate it in terms of if there's a space in it, of course, fits with the master plan, right? Because say you have flora from wherever, like Philippines or Japan, and it's in an area that could also pull in visitors, right? Particularly from those locations. And then, of course, when our sister cities come, like, it'd be a great opportunity to pull them into the zoo. So I just sparked my interest, and so I just wanted to flesh out the potential connection there, but not something I know I'm gonna spend a lot of time like trying to put budget money into, but I do think it's a great idea, and so.
I think it's a great idea as well, and we welcome any elevated and creative ideas like that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we are absolutely focused on this next year and is accreditation. That's going to happen at the end of this year, and we're actually deploying deputy director to go and help to make sure that we can cross the finish line. And I agree, with the vote taught us a lot about the zoo and how much love and interest there really is. And we just really need to make sure we are solid in the zoo that we've got right now. But I love your ideas, and we look forward to talking to you about that in future.
I appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
I definitely think Blaisdell and the Shell, everything's been hopping, and there's a lot of exciting stuff. So look forward to the more concerts coming too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. In addition to that, I would like to say that we would love to share the photos of the gardens, and it's not just, I guess, geared towards like the gardens itself, but also geared to what's around, what they're trying to promote in the park as well. So it doesn't have to take up too much space, but it's just something we can look at. Okay. Thank you. Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Thank you for all of the good work that you've done in the last 6 months. I will not go into detail about the Pali Golf Course because I know we can catch up in a one-on-one meeting. I like to talk about an issue that has, of course, been on the front pages with regard to the Kilohana hula show by the Waikiki Shell. And, it just concerns me as a native Hawaiian because King Kalakaua gave the property, is that correct?
Yes.
Historically. And of course, after that, there was a multitude of historical events that dispossess the native Hawaiian people and all residents of the Kingdom of Hawaii of our public lands. And yet we have a society here, it's called the Kapiolani Park Preservation Society, attacking a nonprofit organization. And in full disclosure, I was on the board of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. So that's not why I'm bringing this to your attention, and I want to clarify your discussions. But it pains me to see these individuals trying to paint a picture of the public being deprived. And I challenge any of these individuals to fight for the cause of Native Hawaiians, since the overthrow, which they probably agree with, and the illegal annexation of Hawaii, Kingdom of Hawaii, 1.8 million acres. I wonder what they think about that. Yet we have this marvelous hula show that is helping to just give Native Hawaiians a sense of place as opposed to just being in pictures, right? And having our culture and language attacked all the time. It took us decades to revitalize our language, and we have all of these safeguards in our Constitution, and I'm just saddened by these events. My question to you is twofold. Number one, under what authority do you provide contracts to any vendor at Waikiki Shell? That's my first question. And second, did you work with Corporation Counsel to ensure that the agreement, it's not a lease, but the agreement that you arrange with CNHA is legally sound? And then maybe there's a third question. I know that they are threatening a lawsuit and to go to the Attorney General's office. Are you going to work with Corporation Counsel, to work with the Attorney General, to have a collective legal front to address the legal concerns that have been raised?
Thank you for your questions, and thank you for sharing your views on this matter. We have definitely worked with Core Counsel and made sure that everything that we have moved forward with has been approved by them. We are awaiting the Attorney General's response to where we are going to proceed. And as far as the first question, I wasn't here in the very beginning. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and basically what I'm trying to ask is, you clearly have events there. How is this different than any other event?
I don't think that it is different. It is different, but we are calling it a rental. I think the discussion has been, as far as I understand it, is that it's the duration of the amount of days, and that seems to be what is the bone of contention.
And are you working to ensure that it's in compliance with the law and your regulations in providing agreements to vendors?
Go ahead.
In our discussions with Corporation Counsel on this, we have got their approval for the legality of this contract.
And I guess I just want to have an assurance. You believe in the show, do you not? And do you believe in the legal soundness of the agreement that you worked out with CNHA?
We absolutely would not have entered into an agreement if we did not believe that wholeheartedly.
Thank you so much, and I just urge that you work with the Attorney General's office as well. Thank you so much.
That's a great suggestion. We appreciate it.
Thank you, members. Any other questions for Enterprise Services? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Director, and thank you to your team.
Thank you for all the assistance in the zoo.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the next services department. We have Department of Customer Services. For CSD, we have Departmental Communication 161. Departmental Communications 161. Following Department of Customer Services, we're having Department of Environmental Services. And we can give you time to set up. Thank you. Hi, Director. Thank you very much for being here.
Hi.
To you and your team.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Budget Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Wire, Council Vice Chair Kiaina, and members. I'm Kim Hashiro, Director for the Department of Customer Services. With me I have today is Derek Maeshiro, CSD Director, William Trujillo, Motor Vehicle Licensing and Permits Administrator, Christy Cam, Satellite City Hall Administrator, Ray Tom, Satellite City Hall Operations Officer, Harold Ned, Acting Public Communications Administrator, and Jasmine Hoffman, who is our Acting ASO, who will be running the PowerPoint presentation. This slide shows the changes between CSD's fiscal 24 and fiscal 25 operating budget. Overall, CSD's budget of $30.3 million is increasing by $375,899, or about 1% from fiscal 24 to fiscal 25. Total salaries of $16.5 million are increasing by $804,394, or 5% in fiscal 25. And this essentially provides for collective bargaining increases for CSD employees. Our current expense budget of 13.8 million is decreasing by 2% compared to fiscal '24. The bulk of that reduction is due to lower costs for our call center, which answers many calls daily for our motor vehicle licensing and permits division, and also a reduction of 450,000 for a trailer for our motor vehicle control unit, which is budgeted this fiscal year. Our equipment request is also reducing by 64% and will be 51,000 in fiscal '25. This is for a sole vehicle replacement for our motor vehicles licensing and permits division. It is to replace a 1991 van, which is broken and unable to be driven. We actually do have a loaner truck in its place, but that also breaks down frequently. So we're asking for a replacement to enable driver's license staff to travel to other driver's license locations to conduct motorcycle road tests, and also for staff to pick up supplies at the print shop and other vendors and to deliver license plates to our satellite locations. Some of the budget issues that we're facing this year include reorganization. So that has started this fiscal year and carried over into next fiscal year. So we have a number of reorgs that we're working on, and I'll tie this into our ability to fill positions as we move on to our vacant positions. But just to give you an overview, we have a Satellite City Hall Regional Manager reorg, which was approved by the MD in January. However, we're waiting for a new class to be created by DHR, and this would create an East and West region for our satellite city halls, where these regional managers would not only oversee one location, but multiple locations. They would mentor other more, less experienced managers who only operate one location. And it would also create a career path for some of our satellite managers. The Public Communications Division is actually undergoing, well, we've talked about some different ideas, and this actually came up last year. We have a Librarian 3 position, which has been vacant for quite some time. It's on the 7+ category. We only have 3 positions in the 5+ category. But we're looking now to repurpose this position and actually add it to our customer care unit, which currently is comprised of only 3 positions, and they actually intake and respond to 500 calls, emails, or 311 cases per week relating to citywide complaints and concerns. So they do their best to answer these questions, but they would also create a one-view case and refer to any city department for follow-up. Additionally, this unit also responds to DPP's first-tier calls. So this is a relatively newer service that we've absorbed. And this is where about 400 calls per week come in for DPP-related questions. And the staff has learned to answer basic questions, but will also refer any status-related questions or more complex questions to DPP staff for follow-up. MVOP, which is our largest division, about 175 positions, has not reorganized in quite some time. So we actually have 3 reorgs that we're in the process of implementing or proposing. So the first would be to combine 2 small units into one that issues licenses and permits, particularly bicycle licenses, disabled parking permits, and business district parking permits in Waikiki, along with moped licenses. We're also going to repurpose an existing clerk position and create an administrative specialist for the division. This is such a large division that has a lot of personnel, budget, and fiscal responsibilities, so this position would support that. In phases 2 and 3, we're looking to reorganize and restructure our driver's license branch and then our motor vehicle registration branch. And essentially what we're trying to do is take a look at our existing positions, maximize use of them, and also work with DHR and BFS on, what is the best way to create a different kind of career path for our employees, because we are very focused on retention, and many of these positions start off at entry level of SR10, which is only about a $38,000 salary to start. And it's very challenging to fill these positions and retain employees. So we're looking for ways to make improvements in that area. So moving on to our vacant positions, CSD has a total of 303.5 positions. 293 are permanent, and 10.5 are personal services contracts, which are budgeted. On 2/1, we had 28 vacant positions, 24 general fund, and 4 highway beautification fund positions. Since then, we've filled 11 of these positions in the last few months. Just to note, last year when you received our vacant position report, we had 36 vacant positions. So we're happy to say we've been able to bring that number down compared to last year. We plan to fill 13 positions before June 30th or by this fiscal year. We're deep into the recruitment process as it is, and it's just a matter of completing interview and selection for some positions and onboarding. Others, we're waiting for a new list from DHR. And we'll fill the remaining 4 positions next fiscal year. We note that CSD filled 44 positions since July 1, so this fiscal year, through the end of January, which represents 15% of our total permanent positions. Our vacancy rate remains low at about 10%. We have no vacant positions that could be abolished, and we also have 16 positions that have been deactivated to reflect a more accurate picture of positions required by our department. And I know we had Councilmember Tupola had asked that question of the previous department, and I fully agree that deactivating positions, not funding them, but keeping them in place is really helpful to our department. And if you recall, for this fiscal year, administration proposed and council approved 4 deactivated positions in satellite city halls to be reactivated. And that was because we had absorbed our passport intake services with existing staff, and we had come in and asked for 4 deactivated positions to be reactivated. So that's a good way to utilize existing resources without having to abolish and create new positions. For overtime, our budgeted overtime is in Object Code 1102, non-holiday overtime. For public communications, 1,900 that's budgeted is really just a provision for emergency overtime in anticipation of any type of public communication emergency response. So this division functions as a backup PIO to DEM at times of emergency. Also, we're looking at providing call center support and shelter support. And this would be during the upcoming hurricane season, which is typically between June and November. For motor vehicle licensing and permits, the $103,000 budgeted overtime line item is broken out into 2 divisions, $20,000 for our motor vehicle registration group. And this is utilized when we have a certain service level expectation. So for example, when we receive dealer registration packets, the understanding is that we turn that around in 6 days. When we start to hit about 4 days, 5 days, we look at utilizing overtime on Saturdays to make sure that we're able to continue to meet that 6 days turnaround and not create a backlog. The remaining $83,000 is utilized for driver's licensing overtime, and we have been providing Saturday service for quite some time now, utilizing that budget. So 4 locations are currently scheduled for Saturday service on a rotational basis. Kapalama, Kapolei, Ko'olau, and Wahiwa. And this includes not only renewals, but also road tests. Our last slide is relating to revenues. CSD is projected to generate $224 million in revenues in the coming year. The majority of revenues is generated through motor vehicle registration and driver's licensing and permits, which brings in approximately $214 million. $5.4 million is attributed to charges for other services and service fees, which includes service fees for dishonored checks, credit card processing, passport intake services, and also highway beautification. Miscellaneous revenues, which include the motor vehicle inspection program, disabled placards, towing services, auction and sales for impounded vehicles, is estimated to generate $4.5 million. The revenue projection is flat since the volume of transactions is expected to be the same next fiscal year. And I'd also like to mention for licenses and permits, that's also the same for next fiscal year. But in the subsequent 2 years, we are looking at an increase in our volume. So based on the most common renewal period of 8 years, we're looking in the next few years that we're going to start to see that increase. Right now, we've been in kind of the low part of the cyclical period. We'd like to note that CSD revenues for fiscal 25 are projected to be $22.5 million, while our total expenditures are just over $30 million. And CSD expenditures are therefore only about 13% of our total revenues. This concludes the CSD fiscal year 25 budget presentation. Thanks for your attention. I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. We're going to go with Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Mahalo, Director, for the presentation. And just wanted to also thank you for all your work. I know you've been very proactive in just looking at the positions and classifications and figuring out ways to increase staffing. And so welcome your expertise and all you've been doing on that. Also the due diligence you did on the budget proviso we had in last year for the some of the invasive species. And I know there's complexities. Well, I guess the chickens aren't invasive, but I know we included the parakeets on that too. And just being willing to walk through and do due diligence. And I know we don't always have solutions right away. The only additional thought I had or question, I was just wanting to better understand if you could flesh out the customer care unit and just kind of what that interaction looks like at the city. And a question I had that's come up is, so the 768 city number, that doesn't call you folks, yeah? That's kind of only for emergencies and not really used anymore? Or do you have any info on that?
Which 768 number?
Yeah, the 768 city.
768
Remember we used to give out that number all the time for everybody to call? And then it went to like, and the only reason I asked is because, you know, well, maybe if you could walk through how the customer care works, because it sounds like it's mostly folks from departments getting referred over and folks aren't just necessarily calling you up in the community. Is that
No,
correct?
it's actually a public number. So we have different phone numbers in the department. 768-9100 is driver's license. 4325 is motor vehicle registration. People get that confused, but that's how it's published. And those numbers are actually answered by our vendor. So it was Hawaiian Telcom. It has recently switched over to TC Kokua on Maui. So they started up recently. They're still working through, you know, some of the process improvements as they start up. We had Hawaiian Telcom since August of 2021. At that time, we were fielding 1,500 to 2,000 calls a day. It was really high. And at the end of last year, it had dropped down to about 500 calls a day. And currently, with our new vendor, it's still around that level. We're still looking at trying to understand reports, new reports that have come around. So that is primarily for driver's license and motor vehicle registration type questions. We have our customer care team that answers the city's, we have a concern line and a complaint line. Sorry, I don't have those numbers memorized offhand, but those numbers actually come into the customer care team, and it's through 3 ways. So they can call, and that's about, I think I said 400 to 500 calls a week. And whatever they're able to answer, they will, and it could be anything. It could just be information. It's kind of the main city information line. And after that, if they can't answer, they will create a one-view case and assign it to a department and ask that department to follow up. So we have a tiered process. And then, as I mentioned for DPP, we're trying to help DPP with their call volume, where their staff can focus on plans review and processing and not answering the phones. So that same team has been answering about 400 calls a week. And again, the same process that our vendor uses. Whatever they can answer, whatever, and what they do for the other calls, whatever they can answer or look up on websites, they will try to help the customer. And if not, they will create an escalation case to DPP, and their staff responds. So that's pretty much our customer care type function, along with what I mentioned for a vendor.
Okay. No, I really appreciate that, because we try to, like, even on our newsletters, like saying we try to put all the different numbers, like need a rubbish can, need to report this, and even the 311 app, I think, is probably the preferred.
Yes.
But I was just curious too, so it's good to know there are folks that are there, general customer care.
And customer care will actually address, the phone calls, emails, and also 311.
Okay.
So
yeah, I don't know the number off the top of my head either. So that's
yeah,
I
it's
think,
not like 9100 and 4325 for some reason have stuck in my head, and the other numbers haven't, but I can provide it.
okay, because the 768 city one was super easy. That was like the COVID hotline. I think it went to OER, but I don't know. Just throwing it out there is like an easy number to remember, especially when we're out in the community. But it sounds like
it is. Yeah, the OER line has been decommissioned.
Okay.
So it hasn't. Oh, thank you, Derek. Derek's actually providing the numbers.
Okay.
So for information, it's 768-4385, and for complaints, it's 768-4381, and this is citywide.
Okay. Appreciate that. And mahalo again for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember DePola, followed by myself.
Hi, aloha, Director. I'm going
Hi.
to see if that 4385 equals a word, because I agree with Councilmember Wire. Like, let's go with simple, because everyone and their mom is like, who do I call for what? Myself included. So I'm going to ask a real quick question, and I apologize if this is dumb, but I need to know, when you get or if you don't do an online appointment for a license, you guys have a rule where you can show up at a certain time the day after at 3, or what is the rule?
So what we ask is that as much as possible, the public make an appointment, because that's the fastest way they're going to get service. They'll wait, we prioritize appointments. If they're unable to make an appointment, there's a couple options. So we actually have walk-in service. They can just show up in the morning or anytime throughout the day, but it's not a guaranteed service. So, and they may have to wait. So what some locations do, if they're smaller especially, they'll try to actually fit them into an appointment, if we have an open appointment. But really what that's intended to do is, we do have, unfortunately, no shows. So as much as we try to encourage the public to cancel their appointment, and they do get a reminder 1 week ahead and 1 day ahead, reminder about their appointment, and if you'd like to cancel, please cancel. But, we understand some people aren't able to do that. So really the walk-ins help to offset the no-shows.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, the other thing that we do is the day before, supervisors at all of our locations will look at their staffing plans, vacation plans, and also any other type of operational concern that they're looking at, and they will try as much as possible to open up next day appointments by 4:30. So we used to have on our website 3 to 4 or 3 to 4:30. That was confusing. We got some feedback. So now on our website, it's by 4:30. So if you have constituents that want to jump on our website around 4:30, that's the best time, because what's happening is each of the location supervisors may not be uploading additional appointments all at the same time. It depends on, what is going on at their location at each day. So we are trying to do that now, and I think it's working out better. Is it working out better? Yeah, we're getting better feedback from that.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to reiterate it just to make sure I got it. You can walk in anytime, but you may have to wait. At 4:30 every day, you can check for open next day appointments online. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I help a lot of homeless with IDs, and I always forgot the rule. The second question I had was, for the Waianae DMV, you guys are only over just that portion where you guys are at, not over the whole building, correct?
Right. We're on one end of the building. We have a driver's license office that offers road tests on Tuesdays and Thursdays. However, renewals or other driver's license transactions Monday through Friday. And then we also have a satellite city hall office that's there Monday through Friday.
And the rest of the building is managed by who?
So I know at one time it was Work Hawaii had a program there, so DCS. I'm not sure if there's anyone else in that building right now. Let me see if.
DCS has Work Hawaii, but I don't really know who's over that building. There's a couple empty places that people want to rent. I don't know who in the city is in charge.
But operationally, no one else in there, right? Okay, so DLM does manage the building.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good to know. Some of the empty rooms people are interested in renting, they've been empty for a while. So thank you so much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, followed by myself, followed by Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Director. I recognize that your customer-facing staff goes through a whole lot because of the voluminous amounts of driver's licenses and other things that they need to issue. Could you explain a little bit about the other types of licenses which they're expected to process and the amount of time that takes? I know there's a number of business licenses, other kind of miscellaneous things, and if you could opine a little bit about whether those licenses serve a real purpose in 2024.
So right now, we actually have at our Kapalama location 2 windows which are assigned to other types of licenses: bicycle, moped, the Waikiki street permit, parking, disabled placards, and then business licenses, which, there's a long list of business licenses, some of which may not necessarily be current right now and really appropriate. So we definitely need to look at that and see what is really necessary to continue. Those windows actually provide that service on an appointment basis right now, Tuesday, Thursdays, where we've been having a staffing challenge there, but we're thankful that we filled 1 position, hopefully on our way to filling a second. It is a very small office right now, with just a few positions, which is also why we want to do that reorg that I mentioned earlier, to try to beef up that office. Right now, the bicycle moped licenses are predominantly what they focus on, as well as the disabled placards also. So it's kind of an annual thing. Even the Waikiki permit, that's an annual type big push for renewals. So as far as, what my opinion on that, I'm very open to working with you and to see whether or not, or working with council, to see whether or not we need to continue to offer all of those different types of licenses. We have a page on our website that has a long list if anyone's interested. And some of them, you read it and you're like, okay, you don't even know what it is really. So I'm not sure if the public really understands, what we're offering. So we can definitely work on that.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is myself, followed by Councilmember Okimoto. I have a few questions. First off, it's great to see Mr. Harold Ned, because I utilize his emails a lot for whether it be my resources or if I'm at a neighborhood board, I just look up his name. I look at the press releases, so it's great to see your team here. My first question will start off I guess a little more simply, with the Municipal Reference and Record Center, has it been relocated? I know it is affected by, I guess, what's coming to Mission Memorial. Would you be able to provide an update, and also if there's going to be a modernization of the records keeping?
Yes, so it was relocated out of the library down on Fasi, between Fasi and here. And the records were actually moved either into whatever we could archive, we did. And then we also have a location on the 4th floor of this building. And we're trying to digitize as much as possible. So we do have part of Ned's group is scanning, staff that scans and digitizes and files, because we want to move away from the manual paper records as much as possible. His team also includes a records management group. So in the basement, or second level, street level, no, basement level of the parking garage, there are very large archive areas that are climate controlled, that house and retain records from all city departments. And the criteria is that it needs to be part of either the city's general retention schedule or record schedule, or a departmental schedule. And as long as it meets that criteria, and we ask for standard, boxes that we use, we actually provide those. We can actually manage those records and store those records for any city agency. And it's also subject to a retention schedule. So when that schedule comes up, we actually work with the departments to confirm that we can destruct, bring someone in to destroy the records.
Thank you. So when you destroy the records, is that contracted out?
Yes.
Ah, and then
It's usually like a shredded type.
Oh, okay,
company.
I see. And so we don't have that in-house.
Correct.
Okay, and then now that we're, I guess, going digital, how much funding do you think that will save up on such records keeping, and you need climate control?
I don't know, we'd have to estimate and also project out when we would actually get to that point where a large number of city records would be digital. Right now, we still have a lot of paper. There is a lot of paper, and the archives house, there's all these shelves, and they house rows and rows and boxes of paper. So in some cases where if you have to keep it forever or long term, it makes sense to go ahead and digitize those records. If it's a shorter period of time where we could store them and then destroy, that would make sense also. So it's a balance of what's the most feasible. We could work on a projection like that for you to come up with some type of.
I would like to, I would like to assign, who can I assign? Councilmember DeSantis Tam? I can assign, what's the order that I can assign?
The chair,
They're leaving. They're leaving.
Floor leader, and then anyone.
Okay, all right, Councilmember DeSantis Tam, to the committee. Okay, thank you. Sorry, please proceed.
Yeah, so, we can work on an estimate for you. We would need to project out from our current records now what the schedule would be, and then also we need to work with the departments to figure out, what kind of digital type program we could implement. This group that manages the archives, they are able to actually scan records themselves, but it's not a high volume type of service right now. It's actually just 2 positions.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, my next question is relating to the vehicles. I know that you mentioned about transporting or transiting in between the satellite city halls, and are there opportunities to utilize the motor pool services, or is it just not as available for you all?
Because we're located at Kapalama Hale, that's our main location. There is a small group of motor pool cars that they're smaller, though they're more sedan type. So we're actually looking for a van because we need to actually transport, large items or boxes and boxes of license plates, pick up supplies. So it's not something that a sedan could accommodate. I'm not sure how many motor pool cars are available at Kapalama. I think it's just a few. And so having these dedicated vehicles for our locations, and we do have 5 driver's license locations and 10 satellite locations. So it would be helpful, to have this type of vehicle on hand. And it would, even though it's assigned to motor vehicle licensing and permits, it would be a shared resource for our department.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I know you're not asking me to ask, but I'm curious now with DFM and its motor pool and how they decide just to have sedans versus other types of size vehicles there. You don't have to ask, I'll ask. Okay, my next question is in relation to, well, first off, is a comment relating to the Ethics Commission report that your department helped. I love it. And I also love the print shop too, because I send a lot of mail as well. And the turnaround, sometimes unreasonable, I get it. But I really appreciate the work that they've done. And it's really, I mean, I've seen over the past 12 years how much it's transitioned over time. And I personally am very pleased with it. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Budget Chair. I just want to let all council members know that the print shop has a very talented group. We have 4 graphic designers, and they help citywide with actually putting together materials. One of their projects, large projects, is the annual report. And then they did the ethics report. They also do, different types of brochures, banners, artwork for banners, things like that. And so they're a great resource. And not all departments and agencies know about it.
Oh yeah, well, I definitely appreciate them and utilize them a lot. And I can tell with the feedback from my neighbors that they also love the not the material, sorry, but the quality of the design as well. My last question is relating to free roaming cats. I know you have the contract with Hawaiian Humane Society. Have you been working with the different parks where they see a lot of after hours free roaming cat prohibitors? I don't know how to describe it. But people who really like to attract the cats, free roaming cats.
Feed the cats.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that there are established cat colonies where there's designated areas where feeding is allowed, and there's certain criteria that needs to be met for that, and that the cat colony people who manage the cat colonies, I don't know if there's a term for them, but that they actually try as much as possible to have their cats spayed or neutered so that the population eventually decreases. But it does take, time, maybe 5 to 10 years before you actually see the impact of that. I have not actually worked directly with parks to identify certain parks. Is there a certain or particular park you have concerns about? Okay.
Alapu'umalu Neighborhood Park.
Okay. Where is that?
Oh, that's in Salt Lake.
Oh, Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Okay. We can follow up with them.
Okay, thank you very much. It is I have neighbors chasing people and just chasing each other. I know it's really weird, just because of the cats.
So you have some people who are feeding the cats and others who don't want them.
Yes,
to
and then
feed
they're
the cats.
chasing each other, and then yeah,
Wow.
it's interesting. I don't know.
Okay.
It's hard to talk about. Okay, thank you very much for looking into that. That concludes my questions. I'll now kick it over to Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Director. I had a question just about the overtime that you mentioned, and I know in regards to the entire budget, it's a nominal amount. But I was wondering, you mentioned that 83,000 is overtime, and I can't remember if it was with you or someone else. I was just thinking right now, so these employees are Monday through Friday, and if they do work, and on your website it has, you have, I guess, once a month, certain locations by appointment only.
So it's pretty much throughout the month. It rotates. So one location once a month, and so overall during a month's time, on most Saturdays, the public will be able to obtain services. So our driver's license staff is polled to see if they're interested in working the overtime, and not everyone is. But thankfully, we've had enough staff that's willing to work on Saturdays, and it is definitely a service that is, utilized by the public. So we want to keep that going. It started, I'm not sure if prior to COVID, if they had, if CSD offered Saturday service, but I know as a catch-up for COVID, right, we were opening early and late and we had Saturday service. Now that we're pretty much through the pandemic, we've continued the Saturday service because we believe that it is a very valuable type of service for the community. We want to keep it on an ongoing basis. We've had different discussions because right now it's on overtime. If there's any way to create like work schedules where it would be Tuesday through Saturday and not incur overtime. The problem is that we would need to obtain, I guess, support and concurrence by the staff. And right now we haven't had that ability to have enough staff be interested in even piloting something like that. I actually had inquired with one of our locations, Ko'olau, which is in that Times Supermarket shopping center. It's a heavily trafficked, very busy shopping center, and I thought that would be the ideal location for Saturday service on a regular basis. But the staff, it's a small staff there, and they're not able to do that. My understanding is primarily because of family type commitments and caring for their kids and families.
That was what my line of questioning was going to be, if the hours could be adjusted. And I guess I don't know exactly how this works with the unions, but so at this point they have the say. They can control how their schedule works. They can agree to it or not agree to it. Because I was thinking instead of overtime, you offer like a Tuesday through Saturday. And you're right, many of us work throughout the week, so
are you guys renewing that contract come July this year? Or
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm following. I'll talk with you later offline about it. Thank you.
Members, any other questions for Department of Enterprise Service? I'm sorry, Customer Service. Sorry, I apologize. A lot of services department. Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll move on to the last department, Department of Environmental Services. And thank you to the Customer Services team, the CSD team. Thank you. Okay, for E&V, it is Departmental Communications 167. Wait, where are they? Oh, they're outside. Okay. Oh, wait, oh my God. Where are they? You can come in. E&V, come in. Oh. It is for E&V, it is Departmental Communication 167. Okay, thank you. With us from the administration, we have Director, wait, where are we? Your director is the deputy director. I don't know who's going to do it. Which one are you going to do it? You are? Okay. Okay, with us from the city administration, we have Director Babcock, Roger Babcock. Nope. Good afternoon, evening.
Good afternoon. Roger Babcock, Director of Environmental Services. Okay, so everybody ready for this? It's been a long day, but
and a very long presentation that you have.
We're going to go out. We're going to go out with a bang here. All right. So Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Wire, Council Members Kiaina, Toba, Okimoto is here, Chair Waters, and Tupola. Thank you very much for being here. So we are ENV. Our motto is community, commitment, and continuity. We are a large group of proud public servants. We do dirty jobs. We take all of society's wastes, wastewater, solid waste, or rubbish. We do this with a smile, an excellent responsiveness, and customer service. If you call us about a sewage spill, we're there. Typically an hour or less, we'll be there. And like public safety, we have people working every hour of every day, 24/7, 365 days a year. We're working for the people of Honolulu. And we do have a vision to be a top utility in the United States. And we have nothing but optimism about what we do and what we can accomplish in FY25 and beyond. Again, we provide basic services that assure health and facilitate prosperity. So I'm happy to highlight our FY25 ENV operating and CIP budget requests. First, as you often hear me say, I want to remind you and the listening public that toilets are not trash cans. We are in charge of toilets and trash cans, but we want the right things going into each one. So don't flush paper towels, napkins, baby wipes, flushable wipes, disposable diapers, dental floss, expired medications, unexpired medications. Only the 3 Ps, pee, poop, and toilet paper is what goes in the toilet. All the other stuff goes in the trash can. We're going to collect that too. We just need to get them in the right place. And also, don't forget to recycle grease. Don't put that down the sink. And put it in the gray cart. And don't forget to recycle your green waste in the green cart and your mixed recyclables in the blue cart. All right, so we're going to go to the first slide here then. This is an overall overall view of our budget, and I'm going to introduce some of my team here in the next slide. But basically, what you see here is we have an overall operating budget, $490 million. We have debt service of about $280 million. Our capital program is $446 million. So all in, $1.2 billion for our department. This is about, this is nearly 50%, 48.6% of the city capital program and 17.2% of the operating budget. Okay, so next slide, I want to just show you how we're organized. We do have 6 divisions. There's a total of 1,174 positions. Largest division is refuse with 388 positions. That is headed up by Chris Hirota, who's here today. We have there's 388 in there, and then sewer has 786 folks. So representing our, my deputy director, Michael Keefe, is here. Representing Office of Administrative Support, both Rachel Brady and Jack Pobek are here. Representing Environmental Quality, Dan Brick is here. And representing Wastewater Treatment and Disposal is Edmund Lung, Chief. Division of Collection System Maintenance, we have Lance Manabe and Kurt Williams are here. And then representing Engineering, Wes Yokoyama is here. So that is our team. So looking at, the first thing we'll look at is operating budget, current expenses. So this is stuff other than salaries and wages. And what we see here is numbers for each division. And there, it totals up to $262.86 million. If you add all those things together, there's a slight increase overall, and that's due to various factors that if you want to ask me about, we can go into the details later, perhaps. Moving on to salaries, the next slide shows salaries. For FY25, we see a total of salaries of $88 million. That does include collective bargaining agreement raises, as well as a 10% increase for engineers throughout the system. With respect to that, we are working closely with HGEA on a supplemental agreement to make that happen. And DHR and BFS will work closely with the budget chair on that as that progresses. Next slide is overtime. So it was requested for us to talk a little bit about overtime. Overtime is shown by division in this slide. And these are dollar amounts that are budgeted for overtime. So we don't budget based on hours. We budget based on expenditures, typically from the prior year, to get these numbers. So what you see there is some divisions have more overtime than others, and there's quite a bit of overtime in the refuse division, in the collections. So overall, our budgeted overtime is $12 million. Next slide shows vacant positions. We do have quite a few vacancies, as shown in the slide. Overall, 368 vacancies. That's 32%. It's broken down by sewer and solid waste funds, which are different funds, right? Sewer is funded by enterprise fund, special fund, and solid waste is funded by general funds. The vacancies are not the same in there in each division. Refuse only has a 19% vacancy rate, or 81% filled, whereas on the sewer side, all the other divisions together has a higher vacancy rate of about 38%. Be happy to answer more questions about that, but the next slide does show you some of the efforts that we are doing right now with respect to filling vacancies. So it's a long list of things, and we work on this pretty much every day. We're thinking about filling vacancies and what else we can do. So we're doing a lot of things. We go to a lot of career fairs. We were at Mililani last week. Amelia High School. We are at Nanakuli and Waianae High Schools tomorrow and the next day. And we were at IAEA recently, and so we do a lot of recruiting. We're at the College of Engineering, UH Manoa Career Fair recently as well, and there's 2 of those per year. So we're at everything. We're also doing outreach off-island, especially for engineers, because there's a limited local supply. So we are trying to reach out. One of the things is a fellowship shown as there as a second bullet, a program that's partly funded by EPA. We also have we're outsourcing our driver training. So the city's driver trainers retired, and we have a lot of folks that have CDLs. And so we're doing that. We're recruiting above minimum and hiring above minimum. We're offering some recruitment incentives, including things like potentially some bonuses or relocation expenses. We conducted with our own people, all our engineers, some focus groups and a survey of what makes them stay and what they think would help recruit. We're doing some recruitment videos and some kind of branding efforts. We have established a really extensive wastewater operator training program to bring new folks in with no experience, get them trained up and get them ready to pass. That's a licensed profession. They have to get licenses. So we prepare them for their exams. We're also right now trying to figure out how to contract with a company that will supply, do headhunting for us for wastewater operators. A local private company has used them and had success. And we also have partnerships with the Department of Education. And just so you know, all vacancies are not the same. We have a lot of blue collar workers, and again, as I mentioned, we do dirty jobs. A lot of our jobs are physically demanding. They're stinky. There are safety issues, risks, confined space entry. PPE is involved in a lot of our things, but these are also skilled blue-collar professions. So, for example, we have about 80 of our openings are in people that require a CDL license. About 50 are engineers, requires a license, and about 60 are wastewater operators, which is also a licensed profession. So you don't just enter these with those. There's minimum qualifications that are challenging. Okay, so moving on then. So in terms of the budget, the operating budget, the appropriated amount, here what we see is the overall breakdown for solid waste is $212 million, and for wastewater is $163 million. That comes from the sewer fund, and the $212 comes from the solid waste fund. Total is $375 million. We'll take a little bit closer look at some of these costs. The first one shows solid waste appropriation. So it's got the operating cost there, the $212 million. It's got some the non-salary personnel costs, debt service, and what we have to pay to other departments for things like water and et cetera. Go ahead and go on to the next one, which is the sewer operating budget appropriation. Here, there's again, the operating cost, $163 million. Debt service is much larger, $231 million, and the total there is $461 million is the appropriation for the wastewater activities sewer fund. All right, let's look at on the revenue side. Again, split up solid waste and wastewater. So solid waste, you see their tip fees and energy that HECO pays us for electricity is $67.9 million. So overall, it's $130 million. You'll notice that the fees are unchanged, so there's no changes in fees proposed for FY25. On the sewer side, sewer revenues, again, you look at the top number there for service charges. There's no fee increase proposed for FY25. And then there's a total there of $467.8 million on the revenue side for sewer. Okay, so now we're going to move into the CIP program. So for FY25, we are proposing $27.5 million on the solid waste side. And these would be general obligation bond funded. On the sewer side of the house, we have $419 million. Some of that is new revenue, sewer revenue bonds that we would be sell, $207 million. And some of it is cash funded from the sewer fund account. And to give a little bit more information about that, as of the end of February, the funds available in the solid waste special fund is $146 million, and in the sewer fund, cash balance is $1.4 billion. And a lot of that is obligated, restricted, I guess you'd say. All right, so next move into some of the projects for solid waste, CIP projects. We have here 6 projects as shown on the slide. There are no new projects. New projects will be in bold in the future slides. And this shows a couple of things. It shows the name of the project. It shows the FY25 funds that are proposed. And then it shows the phase of work. So D is design, or P is planning, D is design, C is construction, I is inspection, and sometimes you'll see an L, which is for land acquisition. So over there, the letters that are underlined are the primary areas of, or the area where funding is coming to, the effort that's coming for that fund, for some of those funds. Okay. The next one then is to go into the wastewater CIP. So again, this is almost half of the city CIP, and there are 7 slides that list 52 individual projects of the wastewater CIP program. And the majority of these are sewer cash funded, the $211 million that was shown in a couple slides ago. 11 of the projects include sewer revenue bond funding. And 3 projects are prepared for partial federal funding by SRF funds, state revolving funds, which is EPA money that comes through the Department of Health. And those are the Eva Beach sewers and 2 Honolulu wastewater treatment plant projects. Overall, it's a big CIP program on wastewater. The cover photo of the volume 2 of the budget book is of Sand Island Secondary Upgrade Phase 1, which is about 35% complete. It's a very large project, $461 million. Just so you know, that project was started in middle of December of 2021 as a scheduled completion date of December 31st, 2026. So our projects are they take quite a while. That's a 6-year construction, 5 years construction project. So I'm thinking at this time of day, instead of going through the next 7 slides, which you can do, or I can do if you have questions about any specific one, maybe I'll just give you a short narrative of what we plan to deliver during FY25. So we're going to complete the addition of an ultraviolet light disinfection process at Kailua Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant to eliminate Enterococcus bacteria permit exceedance in effluent discharges into Kailua Bay and the associated beach use warnings. We will start construction of a recycled water system at our Waianae wastewater treatment plant in conjunction with the State Agriculture Development Corporation, ADC, to expand agriculture in Wahiawa. We will begin bi-weekly residential collection of food waste and manufactured compostable materials along with green waste in the green carts to be turned into compost. We will continue design and obtaining permits for a process to convert H-Power ash into a recycled aggregate substitute material for use in asphalt pavement. We will complete construction and startup of a sludge dryer at the Honolulu wastewater treatment plant in Eva Beach to begin recycling biosolids-based fertilizer pellets for farmers, golf courses, and parks. We will continue our efforts into digitalization and artificial intelligence for wastewater process optimization and energy efficiency. We will complete construction of our new ENV support facilities, including new central laboratory and administration buildings, which integrates wastewater and stormwater operations in alignment with the city's One Water citywide efforts. We will award a contract to capture methane gas from Waimanalo Gulch landfill and upgrade it to pipeline quality natural gas for recycling. And we will significantly expand conversion of our ENV fleet vehicles into EV-powered models, including trials with refuse collection vehicles. So going to the sort of the last slide there. Of wastewater. So if you went through all those pages and saw the 53 projects, it would add up to that $419.2 million, which is the wastewater CIP program in total. The next few slides are what we traditionally show where some major projects are in each district. So there's a map showing your district and showing, both refuse, projects and wastewater projects. So there's some projects shown in District 1, which includes Honolulu, and also H-Power is also there. In District 2, we have Kawailoa Transfer Station and work at the Wahioa Wastewater Treatment Plant. That's the project that I mentioned, making recycled water. Council District 3, there's Heia Treatment Plant, and the Kailua Wastewater Treatment Plant is also in District 3, so there's projects there. There aren't major projects in Districts 4, 5, and 6, but in District 7 is where is downtown. Sand Island is there, and KE Transfer Station is there, and so there's projects there in District 7. In District 8, there's some projects in the Pearl City area, and in District 9, we got the EVA sewer project and Waipahu Refuse Facility and Convenience Center projects. So hopefully that high-level, quick overview of our program was helpful, and I would be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Director. I have Council Vice Chair Kiaina, followed by Committee Vice Chair Wire, followed by Council Chair.
Thank you, Director. I know you touched upon Kailua Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant, but I just want to make sure because, I get concerned constituents with regard to the exceedance levels for enterococcus. Is that what it's called? And so I just wanted to better understand. I see that in totality you have 46 million in this year's budget, and you actually had some in last year's budget, but that ultraviolet system was actually in another pot, I think a year before. Can you just assure me that the city is taking the necessary steps, and just give me a time frame of when you believe that we won't be having those exceedance levels?
Yeah, so thank you for that question, Council Member. So yes, we've actually entered an agreement with DOH and EPA on compliance deadlines for that project, and so we're committed to finish it by the end of next year, the end of 2025, December 25, and it's in a what's called an administrative order on consent. It will be bid out this year, soon. It's very close to ready, design drawings ready to be bid. So.
And that was separate funding from all of this other funding, right? Because all of the other funding that you've been before that project's all put together. What are you doing to address the exceedance levels?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we have a whole series of things that we do. So we have these key process indicators. So we have certain operating conditions that have been determined to be the best, to operate it. They've been working with different chemical doses to help control. And other procedures and practices there to try and maintain the, not have exceedances until we get this system in place. And so it is it's an ongoing challenge, but
You're doing your best.
We're working very hard
Okay,
at it.
all I could do is, make sure that you are doing your best. My second question has to do with sewer installations, because I understand that for areas that aren't currently served by your department, but you are scheduled to do so. I do know, for example, Waimanalo Beach area, and you're doing something in Kaneohe. And I guess my question is, what kind of education campaign or outreach do you guys undertake to make residents aware of this? And the reason is everybody's stressing out about compliance, right, and how to convert. And so I'm wondering that if residents know that the life of a septic tank is set to expire close to when the sewer line will be constructed, then they may not choose to expend those costs. And I get calls all the time. So can you explain to me what you guys do to help residents? And then also, I just, any tips on how people could, where they can get funds to help convert?
Yeah.
And that's my last questions.
Yeah, thank you. So there's several important questions there related to essentially to cesspools and cesspool conversion. We believe there's over 10,000 cesspools, still on the island, or somewhere in that neighborhood. And we do have, so the way we do wastewater planning in general is we have facility plans that are by basin. So there's the Sand Island Basin, Honolulu Basin, Kailua Basin, et cetera. And whenever we do facility plans, part of the analysis by the consultant that does it for us is unsewered areas and what it would cost, what's feasible, what it would look like, and preliminary layouts and costs and stuff like that. So we have, and then if the city puts in sewers, it's called a sewer improvement district. We have to come to council to get approval for a sewer improvement district because it does impact the residents in two ways. One is we're all going to pay for it. The existing ratepayers are going to pay to bring those sewers in. And then folks are going to have to connect, and they're going to start paying a sewer bill, which they don't have now. And so your constituents are going to have questions about that and concerns, right? So it's a very public process once we initiate that. So that said, with our facility planning efforts that we've done over many years, we have identified sewer improvement districts all over the island. And I want to make sure that you don't misunderstand that means we have plans to connect every single cesspool and get them onto a sewer. That's not the case. There are quite a few cesspools, for example, say between Laie and all the way around to Haleiwa, where there's no sewer basin there. We have no facilities. There are no plans right now for building a treatment plant out there or something. But not that that's impossible, but that is not currently planned. But within basins, there's already about 18 identified sewer improvement districts within the existing basins, people that are not connected. Eva Beach, the 979 is a good example. That's in the Honolulu Basin. They're not connected, and they could be connected. So once we come to council and request essentially to plan for a sewer improvement district, then it would begin a public information process. We generally don't go out and tell people that we're going to bring sewers to you unless we're really ready to do that, right? And we have sort of approval, and it reaches its way to the top priority based on all the other things that we have to do. So that said, if you look at our 6-year CIP plan, you will find those 18 different SIDs in there, all receiving some type of funding in the next 6 years. Could be planning, could be design, could be construction. A lot of them don't get into construction in the next 6 years, but they are in those earlier phases. They've been identified in a facility planning effort as potential, but then it really becomes a project once funding goes in and we actually start.
Where can I find that?
So that is in the 6-year CIP plan, which I'm not sure where it appears in your budget book. Must be budget book 2.
Is it in the budget or is it on your website?
Where is it?
Or was it in a council communication?
Yeah, so the project sheets are in the budget book. So they're in the back. And it would identify the projects and what years.
I'm going to go look for it later, but if
Okay.
I have a problem, can I contact your staff?
Of course, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Vice Chair Kia-Aina. Next, we have Council Chair Waters, followed by Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Oh, terrific. Thank you so much. I mean, you answered my questions concerning cesspools, but how many city properties use leach fields, package plants, et cetera?
You know, I'm not sure about that. We, we really just have the Seward infrastructure associated with us. So it would depend on, which department. Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that.
If you can get that to us later. What about Aloha Stadium redevelopment? Do we have the projected sewer capacity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've just been talking to them, and that project has changed and morphed, several times in terms of how many units, and that very greatly affects how much sewage there is. And we've been in contact with them actually for years through all the different sort of phases. The existing sewers in the area, so that's actually the far end of the Honolulu Basin. So wastewater from there goes all the way around Pearl Harbor and over to Honolulu. So it gets to some pump stations along the way. There are some capacity limitations and a series of projects identified to upgrade that whole sort of daisy chain of sewage pipes that goes over to Honolulu. That, I want to emphasize that those projects are needed with or without the NACED projects. So they're already programmed and scheduled. Some of them are underway, some are in design, and those will happen. But it'll take 10 years before those are all done. So what we've told NACED folks is that we have capacity for a 30,000 or 35,000 seat stadium, the sewage flow that comes from that. And we don't have additional capacity right now. Additional capacity is on the way, but it's not available now. So 30,000 homes or something is a lot more sewage than 35,000. So they're aware of that, and we're working with them and thinking about perhaps some options that they can consider.
Because I think what they're doing is trying to get a private developer to build a stadium, and in exchange, they get to build housing around the stadium and hotels and whatnot. Okay, if you can keep us abreast of that. Do you have a brief update of a landfill site selection?
Yeah, so landfill site selection, we are, with respect to our deadline and our permit, it's still being processed by the Planning Commission, and it will go to the Land Use Commission at the state level at DLNR once it gets through there. So the administration has been working hard. Primary focus is talks with the military about military sites, and at this point, I don't have anything concrete to be able to share. But as soon as we do, we will be sharing that.
Okay, terrific. Do you have to go through DDC, design and construction, on your CIP projects?
Yes, so DDC, so we run our own projects. So we manage them, and we hire the consultants and do the construction documents and get bids and do all that stuff and award and then ride herd on the projects, the contracts. But so generally, no. The answer is no.
Okay, good. Because I was reading the recent audit of DDC. It takes forever to get things through them, which we'll talk about tomorrow. Lastly, years ago we passed Bill 40, dealing with compostable plastic. My understanding was ENV didn't have the enforcement ability. We really relied on complaints from the public. Is that still true, or are you out there enforcing the law?
Yeah, so my understanding is we don't do active enforcement. We do some. Okay. Deputy O'Keefe would like to add something.
Oh, great. Starbucks. Yeah,
Mike O'Keefe, Deputy Director with ENV for the record. So we do, Council Chair, we do enforcement throughout the year. We have a team of recycling specialists that will kind of canvass certain areas, Waikiki, various parts of the island, and target areas for enforcement. So we have several ordinances on the books that we have to enforce. The disposal foodware ordinance, the one that you mentioned. There's also a business requirement to recycle glass. There's the plastic bag ban. And so we'll go to areas where we can, with our limited team, where we can like just hit the maximum number of businesses in kind of one fell swoop and knock them out. And then we'll mix in like other more remote parts of the island as well, just to make sure that there's nobody left out. But and then I think it's every other year we submit a report to council on the progress of our enforcement of those ordinances. And we also do every single year. Lastly, every single year we'll do a mailer to all businesses that are affected by one of the ordinances that I mentioned. And here's a reminder sheet. Also, by the way, we're going to be out in your neck of the woods during this period of the year. So we want to catch people in compliance. We don't want to get out there and like start finding people. So we let them know that we're going to come, over a course of several months.
Thank you. Can we direct constituents to the city's 311 application to get, if they have complaints? And I don't know if it's true or not, but just letting you know that perhaps Starbucks is not complying. And of course they have numerous sites all over the island. But just a thought, want to plant that in there. Again, it was just a complaint that I got, but I wanted to refer to you to investigate because they are a big user of, cups.
Sure. Yeah, we can follow up. We communicate with them actually, so we can follow up with them. Absolutely.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Council Chair Waters. Next, we have Committee Vice Chair Wire. But before that, I would like to appoint Councilmember Okimoto to the Committee on Budget as Council Chair is leaving. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll be as quick as I can because I know it's getting late. Just to follow up on that, so were there questions about enforceability of the ordinance, the Bill 40, in terms of folks pushing back on it? I know there's the exemption that people can apply for, but I think some conversation that's come up in the community, because I can verify that I have purchased Starbucks and they have at least some locations been in violation. I think when I saw it, I was like, oh, did the state preempt us or something, or did they roll back the law, or?
No, and I believe exemptions were temporary, and those have ended, right? There was a program initially, or Mike will answer.
Yeah, and as you come up, I mean, I have a whole lot of empathy for small mom and pop shops that have, are struggling, maybe also may have limited English proficiency, but if we're talking about like a huge corporation that's already complying with environmental laws in California and Oregon and wherever, like.
Yeah, so we'll certainly follow up on the Starbucks issue. Yeah. So the ordinance went into, the disposal food ordinance actually went into effect during COVID. And there was, the administration at the time gave it, I think it was a 12 or an 18-month delayed enforcement on the ordinance just to give businesses some relief. Because they did, most businesses had to get new stock in, and that's a cost and change in practices. So, but no, the ordinance now is in full effect. Okay. As Director mentioned, we do not so much anymore because it's matured. But for the first 2 or so years of the ordinance, we got several requests for exemptions to various things in the ordinance, whether it was straws or lids or sleeves for cups or different sorts of cutlery, stuff like that. And we would carefully evaluate every exemption that we got, but we actually never granted one. I want to say we must have maybe got close to 50 requests for exemptions, including from Starbucks-like corporations, and we denied every single one.
Okay, yeah. No, I appreciate that. I had a couple questions on the presentation as well. I know Vice Chair is asking about the Kailua project. I don't know if I caught it. Did you say the end of 2025 calendar year? Or
calendar year,
is
yeah.
in the decree, or the
December of 2025, yeah.
Okay. Was the Honolulu one set in 2024 before, or is that just a part of the project, or what's the deadline in the agreement on that?
So I think you're referring to the consent decree project? Yeah, so the secondary upgrade of Honolulu needs to be completed by June of this year, 2024. And it is, we're just in the process of taking operational control. The construction is completed. It's actually been in operation since late last year. But it was going through compliance testing essentially, and it's being or has been turned over to us just very recently. But it is performing extremely well, exactly as expected, and working very well.
Okay.
So yeah, that project's complete.
Perfect. And that's good to hear. I know you have a lot on your plate. Like you said, it's such a big chunk of the budget, so appreciate that. The reconstruction of storm drains in Kakako, I'll ask two parts just for timeliness. So is that related to the sinkhole issue? And aside from that, is the state participating in funding any portion of that, or is that a completely separate project?
Are you looking at from one of our slides, or just is?
So it's the reconstruction of the storm drain structures in Kakako. I think it was 2019081.
Storm drain.
Oh, that might be DFM actually.
I think that's DFM.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll pass that then for now. And then the Wahiawa, you said that the effluent system storage should be done 2025? Did I hear that earlier? I know you mentioned a couple projects you were going through.
Yeah, no, the Wahiawa project, we're just beginning that project. So we hope to award a construction contract for the construction of that part of that project, the city's part. The rest of the project, which is pipeline and reservoirs and stuff out in the ag lands, is a state project.
Okay.
Yeah, so we put that out to bid once already, and we're going to be rebuilding it next month.
Okay. And then state, is that like, do we know who at the state would be doing that?
Yeah, that's the ADC, Agricultural Development Corporation.
Okay. And then in terms of the surveys you did, I was just wondering if there was any major themes of the engineers. I know you've talked through the great stuff that's being worked on for retention, but did they throw out any like zingers or anything that was like, oh, we never thought about that?
Well, no, I mean, I think, they had good ideas and let us know what they like about working at the city. The number one thing that comes out is pay. There's pay comparisons. When you do pay comparisons, we're pay less than the feds and private, and so that is one of the reasons the administration has decided to put in a 10% pay raise for engineers. That's really good both for retention and recruiting. It lets folks know that they're valued and we'd like them to stay. Even though they have other options and they're being recruited, but also to get people to think about coming to us. And they talked about all the things, some of the things that they would like us to emphasize: the quality of life aspects, the fact that they work as a team, that they work on really interesting projects. That they feel like they have good benefits, and they feel like that there's a purpose, that they are public servants, and that they are serving the public. So, yeah.
No, that's definitely good to hear. I appreciate that insight. And then I guess my last question is, I know that money went in previously, not last year, but I think the year before, for Honolulu sewers, the improvement district. We can find out, but I'm just curious. So did council already approve that improvement district? I know you had mentioned earlier that all the districts have to go through for approval, or is that pending?
Yeah, so we haven't brought forth any additional sewer improvement districts other than the Eva Beach one, which we will be working with various chairs to bring up again. We need to discuss that project again, and get that going.
Okay.
Right now, it's essentially kind of tabled.
Okay, so the one that Honolulu Sewers designed, that will
be coming up in, I think it has FY25 funding.
Yeah,
So yeah, we would be, so in the coming year,
that might be next.
that would be next,
Okay.
possibly next. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Appreciate that, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Okimoto, followed by myself.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Director Babcock. I actually think Council Chair, Committee Vice Chair Wire might have asked one of my questions, and it was regarding the increase in salaries. So for the wastewater engineering and construction, that increase there was due to the 10%, about a 10% increase.
Yes,
in
and
the
there's
salaries.
also a CBA agreement. You know, there's about a 3.5% raise for all HGA, I think.
Okay, and that's for the other ones, because I didn't see, there weren't any new positions. It was just the increase, and that's just due to
Correct. Yeah.
increases, okay.
Yeah.
But I noticed for the administration, there's actually a decrease.
Correct. So
And
that's
no positions taken away. So how is that calculated?
yeah, that's basically an accounting thing. So we have folks who work on wastewater projects are funded through the CIP program, because they basically work on CIP projects, and as opposed to in the operating budget. So there are a few people in OAS in administration who fall in that category. And so it's just where their salaries get budgeted. This year, they're in the correct place. They're in the CIP budget. Last year, they were shown in the operating budget. And it was corrected later, but it wasn't reflected in the budget. So that's why it looks like a decrease, but it's really not a decrease.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And so also, same question that has been asked before, but where in your budget, because there's a lot that goes into what you have to do, and we know that there's a lot of money in these projects, but where did you have to cut costs, or where were you able to cut costs? Were you able to cut costs in any way in your department and with your multiple divisions?
Well, so we didn't do a lot of cost cutting. There's most of the our projects are in the sewer on the sewer side, and we have the enterprise fund. And we have everything budgeted, to be able to do those projects. There was some trimming in the area of like travel and some memberships and some things like that. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
you.
Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Okimoto. Director Babcock, if you said you had any cuts, I would have been like, what do you need right back up? Because I feel like, you definitely deserve all the support you need. So my question, I just have one, and of course, as you remember, we may have questions that will come to your department later on down the line after the departmental budget briefings. My one question that I have is, may I ask if you could please discuss the degree to which metals are extracted from our waste stream, whether it be before or after being incinerated at H-Power, and if you would then also be able to provide any information on how this process may be further improved, and how much data, and if you could provide any data, and it could be even after this budget briefing, on how much revenue this generates for the city.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So the waste stream, the gray carts, are where there would be metal that ends up going to H-Power. And so H-Power has sort of two different facilities. One is a facility, an RDF, refuse-derived fuel facility, which has pre-processing of the waste stream. In that pre-processing train, there are magnets, and so there's ferrous and non-ferrous metals removal from before it goes into the incinerator, into the boiler. And the other is a mass burn facility where there isn't any pre-processing. So when the ash comes out of the bottom of both of those incinerators, it is then processed with magnets, and ferrous metal and non-ferrous metal also is removed at that point. I think Mike knows the tonnage, annual 20,000 tons a year of metal is recovered. And at the price of the price varies a little bit of metal, but it's $1 to $2 million a year is what that's worth. And just so you know, though, the ash that results after that processing currently still has some metal in it. And it ends up, being entombed at the landfill. We do have a ash recycling recovery project that we are in the process of getting permitted, which we'll be building adjacent to H-Power to further process the ash and recover more metal. We don't have a good estimate of how much more, but more, and then converting most of it into an aggregate substitute product that could be used in asphalt, and thereby diverting at least 60% or perhaps more of the ash into this recycled material as opposed to being, going to the landfill. So we will be, I think, recovering more metal. It is valuable, and so that's our plans.
Thank you very much. Oh, I just had a request for an info briefing on this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is, I would love to. Maybe we can. We'll discuss this later. And how about the same, because I know we have a special fund for glass. Is it a similar process, and is there revenue from glass as well?
So the glass, I believe, so there's the glass that's in the mixed recyclables in the green, the blue carts, but we don't recover the glass from ash, right? Yeah. So glass that ends up in ash from H-Power stays there, but it is an important part of that aggregate material that will be recovered in the future. So it's an aggregate substitute, meaning or a sand substitute in asphalt. And it's done on the mainland and internationally.
We do have a special glass fund though, right?
We do have a special glass fund, and that's under refuse. Mike knows a lot about that. We're going to have Deputy Director O'Keefe.
Thank you.
So Deputy Director Mike O'Keefe, for the record. So the Special Glass Fund, basically, the purpose for the Special Glass Fund, it exists as a way for us to receive money from the State Department of Health, which we then use to reimburse private recycling companies that recycle non-high-five glass. So we recycle our own high-five glass in all the glass that gets deposited into the blue containers. But then there's part of the waste stream that's not high-five glass, like wine, spirit bottles, mayonnaise jars, stuff like that. That stuff still really needs to get recycled because you can't burn it at H-Power and it just ends up in the landfill otherwise. So that glass fund is used for to manage money that we get from the state DOH to pay out recycling companies to recycle that non-high-five glass.
Okay, and thank you. Is that funding cyclically, stable? Is it the same amount of funding that we receive every year, or is it based off of, a tonnage or
it's based off of? So I think it varies. It's pretty consistent year to year. It varies a little bit, but it's based off of, if I remember correctly, it's based off of what glass manufacturers or what retailers pay to import glass containers into the state. So so companies have to, if it's a non-high-five container like the containers I just mentioned, there's actually a fee that importers have to pay to the DOH in order to bring that material into Hawaii. And that fee goes into the fund, which the Department of Health distributes to the counties per capita basis, I think.
Okay, thank you. And that glass fund can't be utilized for any other operations or capital for any other division in UND,
That's correct.
Right?
It's strictly for glass recycling. Okay. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. I guess I had more questions. Okay, my next question is relating to, of course, we know back in 2020 or 2019 when the bulky items then became an appointment-based. And I remember when I was a staffer, of course, people in the district freaked out, but now do utilize it well. And I was wondering, as an update as well as cost of operations, how's that better, or is it worse, or how's it going for the department or division?
It's going very well. The bulky item appointment program is really a success for us. It's on a number of fronts, actually. One of our personal favorite fronts is that it's actually it's a much more managed system. It's reduced industrial injuries of our employees, so it keeps people at work more, which reduces overtime and improves morale. We see that it has reduced illegal dumping is still a problem across Oahu, but we have seen that it has reduced illegal dumping. The previous system was really unwieldy. It was just, there was 1 day a month where you could set out essentially an unlimited amount of material. And that's really ripe for abuse and just not good management. And now you can do this appointment, and appointments are widely available. You can get more than one a month, and it's for a certain number of items, and it's much cleaner and it's much easier for us to manage.
That's great to hear. And I know that, in the apartment I live in, they very much hound on us, even though it's all apartments on my street, that they don't want to be the one to have to pay the fee. Unfortunately, we do have to, but that's just a personal issue. Let's see here. Members, are there any other questions? No? Okay. Other than wanting a hearing on this later, maybe it's a good committee. It's a good discussion for the Sustainability and Health Committee. If I could, okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Director Babcock. Your pal for today. I do have some announcements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Members, tomorrow we have our third day, but not our last day for committees, as we also have a Thursday hearing. Tomorrow, we do have more than just the executive operating and capital budget. We also have our our legislative budget as well. So we do have our contingency day on Thursday as well. But of course, thank you everyone for your questions, but also know that we have the ability to ask questions in writing to the departments afterwards. With that, I don't have an announcement of when I'm going to I do have an announcement. I do plan to break for lunch after the Department of Planning and Permitting. So I do have an announcement for, if there's any admin watching still. Don't make me laugh, I'm gonna cough. Okay, so if there's any admin watching left, that we will then reconvene after lunch with the Department of Information Technology. Once again, we will be breaking for lunch after the Department of Planning and Permitting and coming back after lunch with the Department of Information Technology. Thank you very much, everyone. And oh wait, I gotta gavel out, hello. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.